is A? That is the mystery to be solved in the show Pretty Little Liars. And I've been on a very long journey to try and solve it. If you're just jumping into the series now, I've been watching the show Pretty Little Liars for the very first time and trying to solve the mystery of who is A, before the show reveals it. This is part 5 of the series, which means that this video will be covering season 5 of Pretty Little Liars. If you want to go back and watch the videos from season 1, all of the videos are on my channel, and there's even a big compilation of the first 4 videos. So here's how this works. This is not a recap of the show Pretty Little Liars. This is me watching the show for the very first time and trying to solve the mystery. So after every 3 or 4 episodes that I watch, I'm going to jump in here and break down the different suspects, theories, and clues that I have for who I think A is. And in each section, I will lock in a guess for who I think A is. That way, when we get to the end of the mystery and we find out who A is, we can look back and see exactly how close or far off I was from getting it right. Now, last season, season 4, we got so many answers to so many questions that we have had since season 1, but we still do not know who A is. So without further ado, let's jump into episode 1 of season 5 of Pretty Little Liars.
I know who you are.
Once Ezra tells us who A is, this will finally be over.
No! No more secrets, Allie. Either you trust us or you don't.
What is it?
This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I personally use HelloFresh all of the time. I had gotten sick of eating out for every meal, plus it was beginning to get expensive. So I started getting HelloFresh delivered. It's not as overwhelming as cooking a meal from scratch, considering HelloFresh sends you a detailed recipe and all of the ingredients needed for that meal. I've never really cooked much, but I have an absolute blast making the HelloFresh meals. It's almost like doing a little activity. It's fun. It's also time-saving considering the meals take 30 minutes or less, which is quicker than waiting for delivery, and everything shows up right at my door. So no parking lots, no checkout lines, and no forgetting ingredients. And it's super flexible. I can pause, skip weeks, or swap out meals. No commitment, no pressure. HelloFresh has saved me time, changed my eating habits, and made cooking enjoyable. And if that sounds great, you can click the link in the description for a free Z-Willing 4-star chef's knife on your third box, which is a $144.99 value, plus 10 free meals and your first box ship free by using the code CHASE, HFZWL. That is code CHASE, HFZWL. Make sure to use my code to get this deal before supplies run out. Offer valid while supplies last. Link above will automatically opt you into HelloFresh's best active offer if redeeming after the activation window. Thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Now let's jump right back in to Pretty Little Liars.
Pretty Little Liars is back. Tuesday, June 10th at 8/7 Central, only on ABC Family.
My friends, we are back again. Season 5 of Pretty Little Liars. What a journey that we have been on. Well, I just watched episode 1 of season 5, and we are already back into the thick of things. But before we dive into all of this new stuff, let's, find our footing for a second. It's been like 4 or 5 months since the last Pretty Little Liars video, and if you remember, the big thing that we are dealing with is that Allison is still alive, which is just so insane, dude. Because that's what I love about this show. Season 1, it's going on, and you're like, yo, it would be pretty crazy if Allison was still alive, right? Nah, I'm just joking. They can't do that. That would be insane. And then all these seasons later, Allison's still alive. So yeah, Allison's still alive, and if you remember from the season 4 finale, A has the 4 main girls, Hannah, Spencer, Aria, and Emily, trapped on a rooftop with Allison. Don't forget Allison. She's a part of the main ensemble now. They have them at gunpoint on a roof in New York City. They're trapped. They're stranded. Who's going to save the day? None other than Ezra. He gets shot. And what's really important is right before he gets shot, he goes, "I know who you are," about A. A manages to get away. And then the big question is Ezra going to die? Right. So that's what's been happening, especially in the finale of season 4. Going into season 5, we have some major questions. The first one being, who is A? Duh. But it is getting very complicated, right? And I do need to clarify something I got wrong in my last PLL video. I kept saying that we're looking for the OG A, an A that has been here messing up stuff since the very beginning. Since before Mona, because remember at the end of season 2, Mona is revealed to have been A. And I kept saying that this new A is actually this evil mastermind that has been here since before Mona. And while that's still not super clear if how long this A has been involved with things, it is very important to bring up that Mona is the original A. Like, Mona is the one that was the creator of A. And then when Mona was in Radley's, which was the mental hospital that she had to go to after being arrested for all of her A shenanigans, someone took the game from her. And that someone is the A that we're trying to find out. Now, personally, I still think that this person has been around for a long time, just because there's like things that were never answered from early seasons that would be explained by this A being the cause. You know, stuff like who killed Ian? Because Mona said that she did not kill Ian. So it's like, okay, well, maybe A, the A that we're looking for right now, is the one who killed Ian. So to keep everything simple, because like last season, it was all about who was Redcoat A, and then there's like Mona is the original A. We're just going to call A. The person who we are trying to discover their identity is A. The next question on our minds going into this season is, who is the girl in Allison's grave? Because remember, Allison is alive, which means that she was never dead, which means that the body that's been in her grave this entire time does not belong to her. So whose dead body has been in Allison's grave? Then the follow-up question is, who killed that girl? The girl whose body has been in Allison's grave this whole time. And last season, we got the big reveal that Allison's own mother, Mrs. D, for De Laurentiis, but also for Dickhead, we got the big reveal that she saw who killed her daughter, and she's been covering for that person this entire time. In fact, she is the one who buried Allison alive, because she didn't realize Allison was still alive, but she's the one who buried Allison in the ground and put dirt over her until she was covered in dirt, and then a psychic woman came and saved her. Don't even get me fucking started on the psychic woman. And then in the season 4 finale, we see A kill Mrs. Dickhead. So then we got to figure out, you know, who killed her? Probably A. Probably the answer is probably the same for a lot of those questions. There's a lot going on, guys, and we haven't even started talking about season 5 yet. This is still just shit we learned last season, last episodes. And I don't mean to make things even more confusing, but in the season 5 premiere, season 5, episode 1, the episode that we just watched, we get an A reveal. But this is not the same A who tried to kill Allison. This isn't the A that Allison's mom was protecting. This isn't even the A that killed Allison's mom, I don't think. This is a different A. This is the A who shot Ezra in the season 4 finale. And apparently this A also did some other stuff, like try to kill the main girls in a fire in the lodge. You guys remember that? But then Allison, who we thought was dead, is actually helped save them from the fire. Well, apparently she saved like one of them, and then like the rest, some random person saved the rest of them, I think. Jesus Christ, dude, there's so many mysteries. It's insane, because I feel like all I'm doing is bringing up things that we don't have answers for, and it just kind of makes it seem like there are no answers. It's like, what is the plot of this show? Is it just secret after secret after secret? Yes, that's why it's called Pretty Little Liars, dummy. I am so sorry for calling you guys dummy. That was uncalled for behavior from me. I will never speak to you guys like that again. I promise. I don't promise. Dumby. So yeah, this is already super confusing. I have a strong feeling that season 5 is going to be our most confusing season yet. So let's just jump into episode 1. Season 5, episode 1, this is all about the aftermath of what had just happened in the season 4 finale. Ezra being shot, A getting away, the girls are in New York. The main girls, including Allison now, they are a team of 5. They're trying to protect Ezra from A, finishing the job so that way Ezra doesn't reveal their identity, because right before Ezra was shot, Ezra was like, I know who you are. So it's kind of one of those things where A has to make sure Ezra dies, otherwise Ezra can reveal A's identity. And when that's happening, I'm like, Ezra's gonna die, because there's no way we're just gonna get the A reveal in the first episode of the season. That would be insane. And then the girls also have to stay away from the cops who are like tracking them, trying to find the girls. And then, you know, they're also trying to just find A and stop A. Like at one point, the girls outmaneuvered A. They have A trapped in a park, but then like they pepper spray him in the face. We're like, we got him. We're one step ahead. Then 20 different people dressed up as A with masks on jump out and they're like, I'm A. What if I'm A? So this means one of two things. One, the real A hired like a flash mob to jump out at this park and confuse the girls. Or two, all 20-something people that just popped up in A outfits are all A. I'm fairly certain it's the former, because I feel like it would be pretty ridiculous for all 20-something A's to be in New York at the right time at the right place. But, you know, stranger things has happened. So then Ezra, I know, he wakes up in the hospital. He's able to whisper to Arya something. And what he whispers to her is who A is. Arya takes off running. She goes to find her friends. And sure enough, Shauna has her friends at gunpoint. Now, I do not know if this is a controversial take, but I could not give less of a fuck about Shauna. I guess I should have been more suspicious of her. We saw her with Jenna a lot in the past season or two. Honestly, I just always thought she was kind of lame. Turns out she's A, but not really A. Basically what happened is Shauna fell in love with Jenna, and Shauna was one of the people that Allison was working with to keep her secret that she's still alive secret. So Shauna was aware that Allison was still alive, but she ended up falling in love with Jenna, and she wanted to get revenge for Jenna for everything that Allison did to her, like, you know, blind her. So Shauna then began this kind of mission to murder Allison for real, for revenge. So Shauna was responsible for like the fire at the lodge, and then shooting Ezra, almost shooting them on the rooftop, and then almost shooting them again before Arya shows up, pushes Shauna off the stage, hits Shauna with a gun that was on, they're in a theater. They're on a theater owned by Ezra's family. Don't forget, Ezra comes from a very rich family. She grabs a gun, a prop gun off the wall, bang, hits Shauna in the head. She falls off stage. Shauna's dead. Arya just murdered her. So that's pretty, hey, good for Arya. I'm sure that's some sort of trauma that she's going to have to work through in this season. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I just killed someone. But let's not forget, Emily has also killed someone. That stalker dude from a few seasons ago. Sometimes in the fight, in the war against A, you got to handle business sometimes. That's all I'm saying. And yeah, so basically Shauna is A, but not really A. She was in a black hoodie and she was tormenting the girls, but different from the actual person in the black hoodie who's tormenting the girls. Does that make sense? So yeah, Arya had no choice. Shauna was going to kill the girls. So Arya had to, you know, take out Shauna. Plus did me a favor because now I don't have to deal with Shauna anymore. That kind of made it sound like I was friends with Shauna and she was just such like an annoying friend. And I was like, God, I don't want to deal with Shauna anymore. I wish Arya would murder her. Now Arya just needs to kill Ezra. Am I right, ladies? Yeah, Ezra's still alive. Ezra is alive and well. He still is in the hospital and it seems like there's a chance that he could die, but you know, I doubt it because I was pretty certain in the finale, I was like, oh God, he's going to die for real. Because if he doesn't die, then he'll just wake up and tell the girls who A is. But then that's exactly what happened, and we got the A reveal. I just didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming. So now it's just kind of like, you know, there was so many A's running around I mean, that's what's so goddamn confusing is everybody in this town's putting on a black hoodie and handling business. Like, can't you guys get a different costume? Can we get some diversity, please? Every bad guy does not have to wear a black hoodie and then go by the name A. It's very confusing for me as I try to solve this mystery. However, if everybody did have like a different name and costume, Rosewood would be like Gotham City. The streets would just be flooded with people in costumes causing mayhem. I can understand why they're all trying to, it's almost like a copycat killer situation where it's like the real A is out there. So if I just pretend to be A, maybe I won't get caught. Maybe the actual A will get caught, or Shauna. Some of the other major things that we learned in this episode is CeCe. I'm gonna be real. I don't think I've ever put CeCe up on the board, even when she was like a major suspect. There's just something about her that just screams, I'm not A. We do know that CeCe is the one who killed Detective Wilden in the other season, last season. Again, Detective Wilden was wildin', so it's like, I don't feel bad for him. If you don't remember, Detective Wilden was like this grown man who was dating Allison when she was like 12 or 13 or something like that. It is crazy. CeCe has been arrested, and CeCe is telling the cops everything that she knows. And she's like, oh, and I know who killed the girl that is in Allison's grave. But before she can tell them who killed the girl who is in Allison's grave, she manages to escape. And then we find out that she was kind of Redcoat A, but not the real Redcoat A, which is, I believe, the A that we're still searching for. She's been helping Allison this whole time, is what I'm saying. CeCe, who we knew and was introduced to us as Allison's friend, turns out has been a major part of Allison being in hiding and pretending to be dead. Allison repays the favor by giving CeCe the stuff that she needs to get out of the country, with the help of Noel Kahn, who I also didn't put back up on the board. We know who Noel Kahn is. We've talked about him ad nauseum since season 1. He disappears for long stretches, and then he'll show up for a couple episodes. Back to talking about the girl who was in Allison's grave and who killed that girl who was in Allison's grave. We get a moment with Spencer's dad. I don't have him on the board yet, but I will put him on the board. Believe you me, I will get him on this board. But we have a moment where Spencer's dad is fairly certain that Spencer is the person who killed the girl that's in Allison's grave. I believe the theory is that she thought that girl was Allison, but it was just some random girl, accidentally killed a random girl trying to kill Allison. But we know for certain that Spencer did not kill Allison, but also did not kill the girl that is in Allison's grave. We know that for certain. And pretty quickly, Spencer's dad finds out that she didn't kill anyone because Spencer's sister, Melissa, leans over and whispers to their father something, and he is shocked. We do not know what she whispered. I feel like it's a safe assumption to be like, Melissa was like, hey, actually, I killed that girl. But I don't really know that, and that's not really how this show operates. Typically, the way that a Pretty Little Liars storyline plays out when it comes to something like this is Melissa whispers something to her dad. That's a big mystery. And then later, when we find out what she whispered, it's going to be something that's like either doesn't have anything to do with the A situation, and it's just like a very pressing family matter, or it's like information about like so-and-so was being blackmailed or something like that. Or it's just straight up like Spencer didn't kill that girl because that girl's not even dead. I saw that girl yesterday at the supermarket. Then, and this is why I think that it's not Melissa is the one who killed that girl, because Melissa goes to tell her mom about it too. And then her dad's like, no. Like he goes to Melissa and he's like, your mother can never find out about this. So the obvious thing here is, oh, Melissa killed that girl, thinking it was Allison, but it wasn't Allison. Now she feels guilty. But the fact that her dad is so dead set on Melissa not telling her mom means that I feel like it might have something to do with their family. I just don't know. Because I am kind of under the impression that whoever killed that girl who was in Allison's grave is the same person that tried to kill Allison. And if you don't remember, let's just go through the whole timeline real quick. Someone walks up, hits Allison in the back of the head with a rock. Allison's mom sees this happen through the window. She goes outside. She thinks her daughter, Allison, is dead. She then protects her own daughter's killer, who she just watched kill her daughter, by taking Allison's body, digging a hole, burying it in the yard. Then this random woman who may or may not be a psychic shows up because she knows Allison and she had a sense that Allison was in trouble, yanks Allison out of the dirt because Allison's actually still alive, and she takes Allison away. Then someone else shows up in Allison's backyard and kills a different blonde girl that looks like Allison, and then buries this random girl in the same spot where Allison had just been buried. So I feel like the suggestion that two different people tried to kill someone in the exact same spot in the same exact yard within like 30 minutes of each other feels far-fetched. I feel like it has to be the same person. But also, Allison's mom has had no clue that Allison was still alive. So that means that Allison's mom was under the impression that Allison has been buried in the yard the whole time. So that means that Allison's mom has no idea that a second girl was killed and buried in the same spot. And kind of the wildest part of that whole thing is that Mrs. D has been keeping the identity of her own daughter's killer a secret all these years. My guess, my thought is that the person who killed Allison that night and then watched her own mother bury her in the yard realized that Allison was still alive and was not in the grave. So then this killer killed some random blonde girl to put her in the hole. So that way, if Allison's mom, or if just by happenstance someone digs up and finds the body, everyone still thinks that Allison is dead. So that way, the killer can hunt down Allison wherever she is and finish the job. Pretty good theory, huh? And we can really get into the weeds of that whole thing, but at the end of the day, our job, the reason that we're doing this video, is to figure out who A is. And I think I have some pretty big ideas or clues that will help us figure that out. The first one being, who would Allison's mother protect all these years, knowing that they killed her daughter? Like, if my mom watched someone kill me and then was like, I'll bury the body for you, just go inside, get some tea or something, warm up, it's been a rough night, and then buried me and then did not tell anyone who killed me, to say that I would be upset with my mother is an understatement. So who would Allison's mom want to protect? My first thought is her other child, right? Jason. If you do not remember who Jason is Allison's older brother, and he is also Spencer's half-brother, because Spencer's father had an affair with Allison's mother and Jason's mother. And that's kind of the only person that I could think of, like, why Mrs. D would protect someone naturally, right? It's her other child. She's trying to protect her other child, Jason. But Chase, what if she hasn't been protecting the killer just naturally from motherly instinct? What if A has been blackmailing her or forcing her to keep this secret? You know, A hits Allison in the head with the rock. Allison's mom sees this, runs outside. The person who did it looks at Allison's mom, says, grab a shovel and bury this body, keep your mouth shut, or else your other child is next. So now Allison's just having to do A's bidding, because also maybe A has footage of Allison's mom burying Allison in the yard, which means that Allison's mom could end up taking the blame for her own daughter's death and could go to jail, right? So now she's having to do everything that A tells her to do. But then, of course, we know how it ends because she's dead. Allison's mom was killed by presumably A. So Jason is suspect numero uno, and he's kind of one of the only people that could be A right now, right? Because Shauna's dead, and from what we've learned in season 4, which we learned a lot, A cannot be Jenna, Toby, any of the 4 main girls, Ezra, Ian from way back in season 1, and Arya's dad. Noel Khan is helping Allison, so it's safe to say that it's not him, and the same goes for CeCe. That eliminates a ton of characters of who could be A. In fact, it eliminates most of them. Jason might actually be our best bet at this moment. But what else do we have to play with? right? The show does weird and wild things. What are some of our wild and wacky theories from the past that we might have been like, that's way too ridiculous, and then it could be true? Because remember, we thought Allison being alive was way too silly of an idea to actually happen, and yet here we are. The biggest theory that we've had pretty much in every video so far is the idea that Spencer has some sort of mental condition which causes her to be A without her even knowing that she is A. Now, I'm fairly certain that that one's just not true. We kind of learned all of because there was some mystery surrounding Spencer, and what we learned was that Spencer had an addiction to pills, and that is why she was acting so erratically and forgetting big chunks of things. So that's the answer to the questions that caused me to think, well, maybe she has some sort of mental illness. Plus, we know for a fact that Spencer was asleep when both deaths happened, both Allison and the girl who's been in Allison's grave. So it can't be Spencer. I also had a very fun theory from the Halloween episode where we got this little ghost girl talking to Hannah's mom. This is Hannah's mom. And this ghost girl kind of led me to believe that maybe Allison had a sister. The theory would be that Allison killed her sister when they were little kids. But what if she didn't? And her sister is still out there seeking revenge. That would explain why Allison's mom would want to protect the person who killed Allison, because it's her other daughter. I love that theory. I think it's really fun. It just doesn't make much sense because like where would that sister have been this whole time? How do you have two daughters and then like no one knows that you had two daughters? You know what I mean? There's too many way too many open holes in that theory. And plus there's just like the storytelling structure of like whoever A is needs to be someone that we are aware of and has been around, because the thing that started everything was Allison's death. You know, Allison getting hit in the head with the rock and everyone thinking she's dead. So if, you know, a character like, you know, Caleb, is Caleb on here? Yes. Caleb, he's not even in town anymore. We got a whole thing last season where he went to a different town called Ravenswood because they did a spin-off show where like, I guess Caleb was like the lead of this spin-off show called Ravenswood where it's all supernaturally. So it's like, you know, we can't lock in Caleb because Caleb's not around anymore. And then there's one major plot point from this episode we haven't brought up yet, and that is what Mona has been doing during this episode. Mona finds out from the news that Allison is still alive. Well, I mean, Mona already knew that because Mona's the one that like kind of convinced her to fake her death after she was hit in the head with the rock. But Mona now knows that everyone knows that Allison is still alive. She sees this and she goes, this changes everything. Next thing you know, you see Mona with one of my favorite characters of all time, Lucas the yearbook guy. One of the all-time great characters. Mona tells Lucas the yearbook guy, we're mobilizing. And Lucas is like, you said there'd be more people here. And then Mona's like, they're coming. What the fuck does that mean? Then we find out that Mona has assembled a group of people that include Lucas the yearbook guy and Paige, basically all of the people that Allison used to harass and bully when she was still alive, you know, in school and stuff. And Paige, she's like, yo, I'm not doing this. I'm out. I'm not dealing with this stuff anymore. This isn't for me. And Mona's like, all right, but if you leave, I can't protect you. But Paige is like, whatever, I'm leaving. And then Melissa walks in the door, and Melissa's a part of this. Spencer's sister, Melissa, is a part of Mona's little group that she's assembled. Now, I do not know what this means yet, but I'm assuming that all of the people who Allison used to torment are so afraid of Allison that they're banding together to try to protect each other from Allison. It's incredible because don't forget, we're rooting for Allison right now because Allison's with the girls and it's like, she's like one of the good guys. She's a monster. I cannot stress to you enough how much she was the literal devil. She terrorized everyone within a 50-mile radius of her. For years and years, she bullied and harassed people to the point of like breakdowns through manipulation and twisted games. Everyone she has ever met's life is worse off because they met her. So I believe that this group of people are just like, no, we're not letting this happen again. We have to stick together. But I am very interested to see if maybe it's something more than that. Could this be the A team? Maybe this is the same group of people that Mona was working with all of the original A stuff in the first 2 seasons. And that would kind of better explain why Melissa is involved. I don't know, but I'm so excited to find out. I cannot explain to you how much I love this show. But it's time. We need to lock in our suspect for who we think is A for season 5, episode 1. I'm gonna be real. I think our only option at this point is Jason, Allison's older brother. I believe that makes the most sense. It explains why Allison's mom would protect the killer. It explains why when Melissa whispered to her dad about something, he was like, your mom can never know about this, because Jason is his son, remember? The only issue with this theory is that we didn't really see Jason in this episode. But he does that. Like he'll show up for episodes and then disappear for episodes. So it's like Jason will probably show back up. I feel okay with locking in Jason, even though he was not in this episode. So yeah, I'm locking in Jason. But also it could be something crazy, dude. It could be something insane. It could be a ghost. A could be a ghost. Or maybe A is someone that's so obsessed with Allison that they got plastic surgery to look exactly like her. So that way, when she killed Allison, Allison's mom was so confused because she was like, I think Allison just killed Allison. I got that theory from Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, 1988. Oh shit, you know what? Hulk Hogan was a bad person. What if Hulk Hogan was A? Let me tell you something, brother. Allison De Laurentiis had it coming. She used to bully that poor little Toby boy and that poor little yearbook Lucas. I couldn't take it anymore, brother. I hulked up and took a rock to her head, brother. I'm just excited to be back in Pretty Little Liars. I've locked in Jason for my guess. Let's go watch the next few episodes and find out any more information.
What's it gonna be like when Allie comes back to Rosewood High?
Tuesday,
All that drama and danger and suspense?
she's pushing the liars to their breaking point.
It's crazy.
Crazy around here works on a sliding scale.
Now we're in one of Allie's biggest lies ever.
And the shocker no one saw coming.
That's who killed her.
You've got to be kidding me.
I just watched episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. We are already off to a bad start with our theories. In the last section, I locked in Jason for who I thought could be A. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen happened. A character in the show brought up my exact theory in dialogue in a scene. So that theory is pretty much dead in the water. But something even more pressing is at hand. Because episode 2 started, and I was like, oh shit, I think I misunderstood something really important. Because the girls, the main characters, including Allison now, are like, A's gone. Arya killed Shauna, and now A is gone forever. Shauna was A. They're like, Shauna was the one who took over the game after Mona stopped. Shauna did everything. And when they were first saying this, I was like, you guys are being foolish right now. You poor, dumb TV characters. You have no clue that A is still around. But then episodes 3 and 4 are happening, and I'm like, A has still not come around. And I was like, dude, what if Shauna actually was A? What if I just misunderstood that entire thing? And Arya keeps being like super paranoid, thinking A is back. But then it never turns out to actually be A. It's just like a logical explanation for why she got, violin music on her phone. And the most damning piece of evidence is at the end of every episode, we haven't been getting the little end credit scene from A's point of view that we usually always get, which I think is the show kind of being like, A's gone. There's nothing to show you. But Chase, does that mean that Shauna is the one who tried to kill Allison that night? Shauna's the one who killed that girl who was in Allison's grave? Why would Allison's mom protect Shauna? Was Shauna even around back then? Guys, I don't know. I have the same questions that you guys are asking me right now. That's what's so confusing. I don't know anything that you guys don't. In fact, you guys probably have seen the show before, so you probably know what's going on. And you're just watching me be confused. I'm just a little lab rat to you guys. Let's all watch Chase try to solve the mystery. If he does a good job, we'll give him some cheese. Cheese, in this analogy, by the way, is subscribing to my channel. As I was saying, the whole Shauna thing, it just does not make sense to me. It does not make sense to me how Shauna could have been A. But then these episodes are coming and I'm like, Shauna might have been A. I might have just strongly misunderstood everything, which, you know, to be transparent, is not an uncommon thing in my life. But then episode 5 happens. And at the end of episode 5, it is confirmed what I knew all along, and that is A is still out there, and Shauna was not A. The A who tried to kill Allison, the A who probably killed that other girl, the A who killed Allison's mom. Chase, what happened at the end of episode 5? Guys, I'm gonna tell ya. Let me just set the scene for you. As we were getting through these episodes, slowly but surely, all of our favorite characters are coming back to Rosewood. Toby's back in town. Sadly, without his do-rag. Caleb is back in town. I haven't watched Rosewood or Ravenswood yet, so I don't really know what he's been up to, but he looks rough. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I say he looks rough. It looks like he had a rough time. He's still as handsome as ever. Jenna's back in town. Jason's back in town. Pretty much everyone is back. All of the cast that we know and love, plus Ezra. Speaking of Ezra, Arya and Ezra are back together. We get like a whole sex scene between them. It blows my mind. And what's really annoying is that the show has worked very hard to make Ezra as likable as possible. Like, he literally took a bullet protecting the girls from A. How can we be mad at him? And then you remember everything that he's done. Like, honestly, I was kind of falling for the propaganda, the Ezra-ganda. If it wasn't for the fact that last season we learned for certain that he knew how old Arya was when he first met her in that bar and they were like making out in the bathroom, I would probably be like, Ezra's not that bad. It's almost like the show fucked up and they were like, we made him too evil. Now he's irredeemable. So yeah, Arya and Ezra are back together. They're trying to make him as likable as possible. It's not working on me. It was kind of working on me, but then I just used my critical thinking skills. We are Ezra Fitz. Allison and Emily, they hook up, which is wild, but it's not totally unexpected. You got to remember these two characters' history. I mean, Emily first realized her sexuality through her relationship with Allison, and then Allison kind of used that sexuality and feelings to manipulate and torment Emily, but, you know, it is what helped Emily realize who she is. And besides, Allison is a new Allison now. She's not the devil anymore, we don't think. She even tells Emily that she owes her a giant apology for making her feel that way about her sexuality. And she wants Emily to know that she did actually have feelings for her. So, I'm setting the scene. A newscast comes on the TV. We are about to learn the identity of the girl who has been dead in Allison's grave. All of our characters come together and are watching around this television. It's like the Avengers Endgame of Pretty Little Liars. Arya and Ezra, they're sitting over here. Toby and Spencer, they're sitting over here. Hannah and Caleb, they're walking in together. They're not back together dating-wise. They've just been talking when this happened. One thing that's very important to note, though, Caleb and Allison share a look. What could that be about? I don't know, but hopefully we'll find out. They're all here together watching this newscast. Just a bunch of teenagers and Ezra. And the TV reveals the name of the dead girl, Bethany Young. She was a 17-year-old patient at Radley's, that's the mental hospital. She escaped from Radley's the night of Allison's disappearance. And all of our cast, all of our characters that are watching this on the TV are like, oh shit, this is crazy. Then boom, an explosion happens. The window explodes, glass is flying everywhere. They all run outside, cars have been blown up. And then, oh no, Toby's house has exploded. Is there anyone in your house, Toby? Toby takes off running. Maybe Jenna's in the house. This poor blind girl. And as Toby runs off to see if there's anyone in his house that was just bombed, we start to hear ringtones chiming off, baby. Our main girls have gotten a text message. I wonder who it could be from. We do not see the message, but we jump immediately into an end credit scene from A's point of view, and we see A with the black hoodie and the black gloves, and A has a giant dollhouse all like packaged up, and A places a little blonde doll right at the front of it. I knew A was still around, bro. I began to doubt myself, but I stuck to my guns, and by the end of this 4-episode run, I was right. And honestly, what an epic return. Just when we thought A was gone forever, they blow up a house. That is the level of villainy I expect from A. We've had school gossip A. We've had serial killer creepy A. And now we have full-on action movie villain A. So now we know for absolute certain that there is an A for us to unmask. Who could it be? Well, we do have some major suspects in the show, as in Spencer and the other girls have theories on who A could be. And their first suspect is Jason. And their thought process was the exact same as mine. Why would Allison's mom protect her killer unless it's her other child, Jason? But then we get this moment in Spencer's backyard. Remember, they kind of share a backyard with Allison's family's yard. And Allison's mom's body is found. So now everyone officially knows that Allison's mom is dead. The body has been found. Spencer saw Jason's face when the body was found, and she was like, he didn't do this. This is not him. Plus, he's had like an alibi for where he's been disappearing to. It's like a rehab place in New York. So they're like, nope, can't be Jason. But Jason then tells Spencer, he's like, Spencer, you need to watch out for our dad. Because remember, they share a dad. Here he is, right here. That is Spencer's father, Melissa's father, and Jason's father. He tells her to look out for him. He's suspicious. Spencer was already beginning to be suspicious of her father for several reasons. The first one being that when Allison first disappeared, Allison's mom showed up to Spencer's parents, accusing Spencer of being the one who killed Allison. And she told them that she was going to be going to the police to tell them that Spencer did it. Spencer's dad goes, no, you're not. Because if you do that, I will tell your husband that Jason is my son. It'll ruin your marriage. But because of that interaction, this entire time, Spencer's family, her parents in particularly, have been under the impression that Spencer is led to Allison's disappearance and eventual death. But Allison's alive and well and back in town now. So they're like, oh, I guess my daughter didn't kill Allison. And then, of course, they were worried that Spencer killed that random girl, Bethany Young. But again, because Melissa whispered to her dad something that we don't know, they're like, oh, Spencer didn't do it. Which leads me to the next reason that Spencer doesn't trust her dad, which is Melissa tried to tell Spencer her big secret. But then once again, her dad is like, no, you cannot tell anyone this secret. Not your mom, not your sister, nobody. Then Spencer's mom shows up at Spencer's school one day and she's like, let's go. We're leaving your dad. And Spencer's like, why are you leaving dad? And she's like, too many secrets. She's like, not only do I think that your dad may have killed Allison's mom, I think your dad and your sister may have killed Allison's mom. And then Allison's family gets the autopsy report back on how Allison's mom died. And it was from a certain medication. And that same medication Spencer found in her dad's medicine cabinet. So she thinks that her dad killed Allison's mom to try and protect her. Because Spencer's dad thought that Allison's mom was going to try to blame everything on Spencer. So, yeah, I say all that to say, I believe that Spencer's dad is actually a big red herring. He's too obvious of a suspect because that is who everyone is looking towards right now. They're also looking towards Jason, which makes me think that Jason's a red herring. He's not going to be the big reveal. So then it's like, well, who is? Melissa whispered to her dad that she knows who killed Bethany Young, or at least that's what we think she whispered. And then CeCe Drake told the cops that she knew who killed that girl in Allison's grave, Bethany Young. And even though we didn't get an answer for either of those, why would Melissa and CeCe both understand and know who it is that killed that girl? If both of them know who kills that girl, does that mean that they also know who A is? And then, because Melissa and CeCe are older, they're older girls, they're not the same age as our main characters. What does that mean? Because in those early seasons of Pretty Little Liars, it was almost kind of divided up. There were the older kids, Melissa, Ian, Garrett, Jason. And then they were our main characters who were like the younger teenagers. But they were all kind of mixed up in this same mystery. So what does that tell us? Because Melissa has been someone who we have suspected several times throughout every season. And even now, she's involved in whatever Mona's doing. Turns out Mona's putting together like a mafia, a Mona mafia of people to try to intimidate Allison into leaving town for good. And whatever Mona's cooking up, both Lucas, the yearbook guy, and Paige have both told her that they are not comfortable with it. But that's the whole thing, right? Is like Mona is a lot like Allison. She's a master manipulator. And she was able to capture on camera a situation where she forced Allison to kind of act like the monster that she used to be. It was in her defense, Allison's defense, because Allison does slap the shit out of Mona. But Mona put her in a very tense environment. She thought she was being followed. She thought she was about to be attacked. She's trapped in this dark building. And then Mona confronts her, antagonizes her until she kind of snaps. And not to jump around too much, but that's kind of the whole theme of this season. Allison is back, and everyone in this town is dealing with the effects of it. Her former victims are so terrified of her that she's going to show back up and just start harassing and bullying them again, that they have formed a mafia, a makeshift militia to try and attack her first so that way she doesn't get the chance to hurt them again. I mean, even Mona, the second Allison comes back, she slips back into being the terrified young girl that was tormented by Allison for years, even though that we've seen Mona do things that are arguably worse than anything that Allison had done. Hannah's having a crisis to where she's shoplifting again. Spencer goes right back into kind of the role that she had, where she would always argue with Allison, always try to defend herself from Allison's attacks. Aria is dealing with the PTSD of killing Shauna, so she's kind of doing her own thing right now. And then Emily has fallen right back in love with Allison. But these girls, these four main girls, have grown up and they have evolved and they've changed and they've been through things that no one else has been through. And because of that, they're tougher and they're stronger. And they're not putting up with Allison in the way that they used to. And after Mona kind of doctored that situation to make Allison look like the monster that she used to be, our main girls immediately are like, hey, we're not cool with that. They push back against her. These girls are scared of Allison just as much as everyone else. They do not trust her. Meanwhile, Allison does seem to want to be a better person. And she's at this point of her life where she's lost everyone. Her mom is dead. Maybe her life is better if she goes somewhere else and starts fresh somewhere else. But, you know, what does she really have if she doesn't have her friends? You know, personally, my theory is that Allison is not going to be a part of the main cast for very long. I think by the end of this season, she's either going to be, you know, running away again or kidnapped by A or dead. For real this time. I just do not foresee a world where Allison manages to fix everything and all of the pain that she's caused people, serious traumatic experiences for some of these people, and just everyone like her again. I just don't see that happening. And I say all of that to say that I feel like we are missing one big puzzle piece. Allison has a doctor's appointment at one point because of the police. You know, there's a whole thing going on where instead of Allison just coming clean and telling the truth about where she's been this whole time when she arrived back in Rosewood, she immediately lied and told the cops that she had been kidnapped for the past 2 years and that her friends were very brave and saved her and got her out of there. And, she says that she's doing this to try to protect Arya from getting in trouble for Shauna's murder. But, Allison does a lot of self-preservation. Well, she has to do like this kind of doctor's checkup because of the police. And during that, we see that she has a scar on her thigh from where she got slashed with a knife. And she will not say where she got it from. It definitely seems traumatic, however. Then remember how Allison and Caleb shared a look when Caleb first walked in the door. From my understanding, these two would have never crossed paths unless they crossed paths when Allison was dead and she was like living on the streets or whatever. Because remember, Caleb also was living on the streets. Then there's Melissa, and Melissa has some big secret, and her father will not let her tell her mom. Her mom can never know. Why? It feels like there is one person, there is an individual who is missing from the show right now. And I don't mean someone that we know. I mean, there is a character that has been almost like a tapestry connecting all of these characters for the past couple of years, and we just don't know who they are. Like, remember back in a previous season when Jason had someone hidden in his house, and we kept catching glimpses, and it was a major plot point, but we never got the reveal. Who was in the house? Is this a character that Caleb knew living on the streets? And then that person also knew Allison living on the streets. A character who was maybe involved with some of the older people in Rosewood. And when I say older, I mean the Jasons and the CeCes and the Melissas, the NAT club. Remember that? When it was Ian and Jason and Garrick and Melissa and Jenna. Was there someone a part of that group, an older kid that used to go to Rosewood High, that is involved and is connecting all of our characters together? Who could that character be? And why does that character connect between Melissa's dad? Remember, he does not want her to tell her mom, his wife. Why not? How does this character that we're missing connect with these two adults, Melissa and Spencer's parents, and all of these older kids, and Allison and Caleb and all of it? How does a character fit that? Ladies and gentlemen, this is my magnum opus Pretty Little Liars theory. Buckle up. Spencer's dad and Allison's mom had a big secret together, and that is the fact that Jason is actually their child. But what if that affair that led to the birth of Jason, Allison's mom, like Mrs. D's firstborn child, was born from an affair with a different man? What if before Jason was born, they had another secret child? My theory is that it was a girl. Allison's mom, Mrs. D, has this child in secret, puts her up for adoption. She grows up in the foster system, just like Caleb grew up in the foster system. And just like how Caleb hated it and ran off to be on his own living on the streets, so did this girl. At some point, those two crossed paths. This girl would be around Melissa's age. And I bet when Melissa and Ian and Jason and the older Rosewood kids were all hanging out and getting into shenanigans, this girl was a part of that. And by being around these other Rosewood teenagers, this girl realized the true identity of her biological parents. Maybe even CeCe Drake told this girl some of Allison's secrets. One of those secrets being that Allison knew that her mother cheated on her father with Spencer's dad, and Jason is their child. Maybe that helps this girl put two and two together and realize that she is their daughter. And everyone all the time is bitching about Allison and all of Allison's shenanigans that causes pain and misery for everyone. And this girl is hearing about Allison and is fuming. She's steaming because how dare this daughter get to live the life that she should have lived? This daughter gets to have parents and not grow up in the foster system and not live on the street. And she acts like this. She spoils it. She's a brat. I wouldn't act that way. If they would have kept me, I would have been the perfect daughter. I wouldn't have been like Allison. And so all of this resentment is building up. She deserves Allison's life. Allison does not deserve Allison's life. She sneaks up behind Allison that night, hits her in the head with a rock. Allison's mom sees it happen, realizes that this is her daughter, her first child that she had in secret. And the girl is like, I'm your daughter, please. I'm your child. I deserve to be loved. I can take her place. I will be grateful. And Allison's mom, who's racked with guilt for doing this in the first place, decides to protect her and bury Allison's body. Later that night, this girl realizes that Allison is not dead and is not in the ground, kills Bethany Young, who is a blonde girl in the area, throws her body in the grave to cover that kind of trace, then starts the hunt of trying to find where Allison actually is. And maybe while she's out on the streets looking for Allison, she manages to corner her at some point, slashes her with the knife. That's how Allison gets the scar. The entire time, this girl is staying close to Rosewood, watching our main four girls, trying to see if they know any information about where Allison could be. This is where some of that big A stuff that Mona said that she didn't do comes into play. Then, when it's on the news and everyone knows that Allison is alive and is coming back, she does the only thing that she can do, which is kill Mrs. De Laurentiis to make sure that she does not expose her identity. So she dons the moniker of A and is now on this path. Guys, what a theory from me. I don't like to pat myself on the back too much, but come on. To be, I'm being silly. Realistically, there's a lot of holes in that theory. It's a fun theory. I think it's really cool, but there are some major issues with it. And because of that, it makes me hesitant to lock it in. But the big reason that we're kind of having to come up with a theory like this, that there's a missing character that we don't know, is because every character that we do know, every character that we have met, really cannot be A. And I am so certain that there is a missing female character from this show that we don't know about, because at one point, Lucas, the yearbook guy, is like throwing a party for everyone to meet his girlfriend. And Hannah's like, you have a girlfriend? And he's like, yeah, and we do it. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then at the party, the girlfriend never shows up. And Hannah's like, is there even a girlfriend? And he's like, yeah, no, there is. I swear. She's just like, I don't know where she is right now. And it makes me think that this girlfriend, Lucas's girlfriend, could be this missing female character. That's why Melissa's dad would be so upset and not wanting Melissa to tell his wife, her mom, about who killed Bethany Young, because he's afraid that his wife is going to find out that, not only does he have a secret child with Mrs. De Laurentiis already that she knows about, but there's a second one that she never knew about. And that betrayal of trust would be too much and would ruin his marriage. And I think it even lines up with the whole thing where the night that Allison disappeared, Mrs. De Laurentiis showed up to Spencer's parents and was like, Spencer did this. That doesn't make any sense to me because, one, we know Spencer did not do that. So why would she go and accuse Spencer of doing it when she knows who did it? Because she watched who killed her daughter, right? Now, explanation one is she's just trying to blame it on Spencer so that she takes the fall for what she did in protecting this other person. But what if Spencer's parents misunderstood? What if she ran into their house and said, your daughter did this? And they were like, Melissa? And they were like, no, your other daughter did this. And they were like, Spencer. But because they didn't realize she was talking about the secret daughter that I made up. So you have all of these things that kind of connect the missing links. And then this also works with the ghost girl theory from the Halloween episode from the other season, where, I thought that there's this little ghost girl talking to Hannah's mom, and she's talking about like her sister, and maybe her sister's gone and there was an accident. Maybe this could be why. There's a connection there. And I don't really have a name for this character, so I'll probably just call her Ghost Girl. Because I've been thinking about a secret Allison sister ever since that Halloween episode. And so this would make the most sense. This works great too. In these episodes, we get a big reference to the Scarlet Letter. And In the novel about the Scarlet Letter, what is the Scarlet Letter? It's a red A, or it's the letter A. I don't know if it's red. And why does the woman in the book have to wear the Scarlet Letter? Because she had a child out of wedlock with a secret lover. It all lines up, dude. Now, I am going to be devastated when the big reveal is just like, Allison's been evil the whole time and it was actually her, which is a more realistic theory. But my Ghost Girl theory, I worked hard on this. So, yeah, I feel great about the Ghost Girl theory. There is one more character that started showing up in this season a good bit, and that's this Andrew guy. Now, we've known this character for a few seasons now, but he's never really been this involved. But yeah, I'm going to be locking in the Ghost Girl theory, even though I don't have like a name or a person attached to it. I just feel like there's a missing character, there's a missing person that we don't know about, and that's who I'm talking about. So I'm locking in the Ghost Girl theory. Let's go watch the next few episodes and see what happens.
She says that what she's been through changed her.
The 100th episode.
She's back to punish us for it.
The threat, 100 times greater.
We're not afraid of you, Mona.
The surprises, 100 times more shocking.
I just want to know the truth.
And the confrontation you can't miss.
I made you lose Ramona once, and you know I can do it again.
Y'all like my new shirt? Y'all see my boy? Y'all see my boy Caleb? Guys, we are definitely on to something here. I just watched episodes 6, 7, 8, and 9. There's a lot happening. Most of it, I don't understand. But I think we are on to something with our Ghost Girl theory. But genuinely, so much has happened in these 4 episodes. A is officially back after the whole explosion. And then A sent them a text that said, "Did you miss me, bitches? -A." So now the girls are like, wait, so Shauna wasn't A? And I was like, keep up, ladies. She's just been the one who was trying to kill Allison recently. So they're trying to figure out who A is. And the best way to start is by beginning with the biggest piece of information that we learned, which is the name of the girl who has been kept in Allison's grave this whole time, Bethany Young. Ezra immediately jumps into a research mode, and he's trying to find a connection between Bethany Young and Mrs. D, Allison's mom. Speaking of Mrs. D, she sends she doesn't. A sends Allison a video of A burying Mrs. D. It would be pretty weird if she sent a video of herself being buried. But stranger things have happened in this show. But when Allison received the video from A, it also came with a message which said, "I buried your mom the same way that I watched her bury you, -A." Jesus Christ. So it definitely seems to confirm that A is the same person who Mrs. D was protecting all of this time. The person that she watched kill Allison. Now, following this connection between Mrs. D and Bethany Young, someone drops a folder off at Ezra's door. The folder has like a drawing or a painting in it. And the picture that has been painted is of Mrs. De Laurentiis in her garden with a giant demon. It's honestly insane. At first I was like, has A gotten into pastels? But no, they flip the painting over, and on the back, the painting is signed by Bethany Young. We find out that the person who dropped off this folder with the painting to Ezra is Eddie Lamb. Now, if you remember, Eddie Lamb was in some of the previous seasons with, he's an orderly at Radley's. He had a bit of a connection with Spencer when Spencer was locked up in Radley's. And what's so interesting about this is that Spencer had actually gone and visited Eddie and tried to talk to him about Bethany Young. And he told her, "I can't tell you anything. You have to get out of here." And then he delivers this painting to Ezra's door. Why didn't he give it to Spencer? Even one of the girls pointed that very thing out. They were like, well, why didn't he just give it to Spencer? Now, we find out that Mrs. D was on the board of directors at Radley's. So that is the initial connection on what would tie Mrs. D and Bethany Young together. But it gets so much crazier than that. Arya gets a job volunteering at Radley's so that way she can get close to the situation. And she meets a girl named Big Rhonda. And Big Rhonda gets upset with Arya when Arya is trying to subtly show this painting of Allison's mom with a demon to the other patients at Radley. She gets upset, and Big Rhonda is like, "You stole that from me. That's my painting, you thief." We find out that Big Rhonda was Bethany's roommate in Radley. So through this connection with Big Rhonda, Arya looks into it, finds Bethany's entire sketchbook from when she was staying in Radley's. And there are some wild paintings in this sketchbook. There's one of a demon, like carrying a little girl away from another woman. I don't know if it's like a mother character or another little girl. It almost looks like a kidnapping. Then there's one of Mrs. D with giant devil horns and then the word liar all over her face. Then there's a painting of Toby's mom falling to her death at Radley's, if you remember that whole plot line from last season. It seems like Bethany Young may have been there when Toby's mom died from falling or jumping or getting pushed off of Radley's. And while Arya is doing all of this research at Radley's, Eddie Lamb is on to her about it. And he calls up to Ezra and he's like, "Hey, we need to meet." Then Eddie never shows up. He completely disappears. Radley's is like, "Yeah, he put in his resignation. He's gone." But I think, he was taken or something. Arya talks to Big Rhonda some more and finds out that Mrs. D used to give Bethany Young a lot of gifts when she was in Radley's, would even check her out and take her to the circus. She even took Bethany to a horse stable one time and let her adopt a pony. Side note, I love Big Rhonda. She's awesome. She blackmails Arya into getting her some root beer, and honestly, go off, queen. Anyway, Spencer and Emily go to this horse stable where they think that Mrs. D may have taken Bethany Young. And while they're there, they get some information from the person who works there, and he tells them about the bucket incident. Apparently, Mrs. D told Bethany Young to call her Aunt Jessie. Bethany freaks out and throws a bucket at her. Now, why in the world would Mrs. D tell this girl to call her Aunt Jessie or Aunt Jessie? Not in the literal sense. I understand that Allison's mom's name was Jessica, so I understand the Jessie part of Aunt Jessie. It's the aunt part. It's the aunt part. I don't understand why. While Emily and Spencer are at the horse stables or whatever, A locks them in with a horse. A horse almost kicks them to death. And in the horse stable, they find Melissa's old riding helmet. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but that's wild. So the girls, they have a working theory at this point. Their idea is that Bethany Young is the one who attacked Allison that night, the one that Mrs. De Laurentiis had been protecting. But the issue with that theory is that Bethany Young dies and is put in that same grave in the same night that Allison was attacked and buried in that grave. So it's just weird. Not to mention that Allison just received a text from A that said, "I buried your mom the same way I watched her bury you," which means if Bethany is the one who did that, how is she sending this text message? She's dead. It's her body who was found in Allison's grave. So it's pretty crazy, but Bethany is obviously involved somehow. But we'll circle back to this in a little bit. First, I want to talk about another major part of these episodes, and that is what the cops think is going on. If you will remember, this is Lieutenant Tanner, who we have met before. She is still working the kind of Allison De Laurentiis case. And she does not buy Allison's story about what happened to her while she was, quote unquote, dead at all. She does not believe that she was kidnapped. She is very much against Allison and the four main girls. At one point, Lieutenant Tanner shows up at Ezra's place and starts questioning Ezra. And essentially she's like, "Yo, what's your fucking deal, dude? You get shot in New York, and then that same night we find Shauna dead in a theater that your family owns, and we find out that she went to the high school that you used to teach at the same time." And then there's some various questionings between Ezra And then Lieutenant Tanner, like, she's questioning the main girls all the time. And during one questioning with Arya, we essentially find out that the lieutenant's theory is that Ezra killed Shauna. The theory is they had a relationship, a sexual relationship, since they obviously know that Ezra was sleeping with a different student named Arya. And then they think it went bad. Shauna shot Ezra. Ezra retaliated by having her killed in some way. Now, obviously, that's ridiculous. But I can totally see how the cops would get there. I mean, that is a lot. That's a lot stacked up against Ezra, especially when you know that he definitely has a relationship with a former student. I'd believe it. That's all I'm saying. Look, I can't get mad at Lieutenant Tanner for accusing Ezra of murder. I do it 5 times a video. But Lieutenant Tanner, you have to trust me. Do not follow my mistakes. It's never Ezra. Ezra's never the bad guy. The show always likes him to be a good guy. So that's what's happening with the Shauna situation. Then you'll never fucking believe what happens next. Some guy walks into the police station and goes, "Hey, I'm the guy that kidnapped Allison De Laurentiis for the past 2 years." And they question him, and he pretty much just says the exact story that Allison told the police. This is weird, right? Because Allison made up that story. We know it's not true. So why is some schmuck walking in the police station and saying the exact same story? It's got to be A, right? Not the person who just confessed. I think A paid this dude to take the fall or something like that. Because then we actually see a scene where A is listening in to the police interrogation with this guy who's turning himself in. My thought process is that the cops have gotten pretty close to figuring out that Allison's story has too many holes in it. It's not true. And A can't kill Allison if Allison's in jail. So it's better for A if Allison appears innocent to the cops. And that's pretty much all we know because that's where the episode ends. So I imagine we'll learn more in the next batch of episodes. So we've talked a lot about what the girls think is going on. We've talked about what the cops think are going on. But what do I think is going on? My ghost girl theory, I think we're definitely onto something. We're circling it. We're not super accurate. There's some major holes, but we're close. Because now we've learned that Allison has this weird, almost mother-daughter relationship with Bethany Young. And then it's like, okay, well, is Bethany Young Allison's mom's secret daughter? Or like, what's the deal? Why was Bethany at Radley's in the first place? We know Bethany's dead, so she can't be A now. So how does she even play into all of this? Like, why did Bethany paint all of these paintings of Mrs. D with a bunch of demons? Or the painting of the demon walking away with the little girl? Is that kidnapping about her life? What if Bethany knows who A is, and the way that Bethany visualizes A is through this demon character that she's drawing in the sketchbook? Like, there is a drawing of Mrs. D in her garden with a demon, and it's the same garden where Allison and Bethany were both, killed and buried with varying degrees of success. Allison's still alive. Skill issue, I guess. Poor Bethany. The painting of the demon walking off with the little girl makes me think there was a kidnapping of some sort. Maybe even one of our main 4 girls will find out that they were kidnapped as a child and their parents are not really their real parents. Something like that. But it just doesn't tie into A. I don't know how it ties into A. Because another thing that's really been bugging me is that a major theme for this season has been the relationship between Allison's family and Spencer's family, which is kind of the same family due to the affairs. Both of these families are connected by Jason. Allison, Spencer, Jason, Melissa. They're all connected due to the sins of their parents, right? Spencer's older sister, Melissa, her riding helmet is at the same horse place where Mrs. D was taking Bethany. That is another connection. At one point in these episodes, Melissa and Spencer has a conversation, and Melissa looks at her and she goes, "It's always about love. Everything." Which makes me think that this family stuff is major importante. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's why Eddie Lamb gave Ezra the folder with the paintings instead of Spencer. Maybe he doesn't trust Spencer because Spencer's family is heavily involved in the whole situation. And I know that Spencer's family has to be involved because of all of these connections, but I don't think Spencer's parents are A. I don't think Melissa, Spencer's sister's A. I don't think Spencer is A. I don't think Jason is A. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how the families connect. And then that's not even mentioning all the other insane stuff that happens in these episodes. A shows up in Allison's house and tries to kill her. But luckily, Emily shows up and manages to fight A off. Now, this could have been A, or this could have been the work of Mona and her Mona Mafia, because this could just be the type of thing to try to get Allison to run away, because she's not safe in Rosewood. So it's like, was that A, or was that Mona, or Lucas the yearbook guy? You know, everyone uses the same black hoodie for everything. And so it's like, there's so many different people that are out to get Allison. It's hard to figure out which ones are A and which ones just don't like Allison. And then something else happens, which makes it even more complicated, which is at one point, Allison is with Hannah's mom in their house. A breaks in, has a knife. Luckily, Hannah's mom and Allison are okay and manage to kind of run off A. The cops show up. We later find out Allison set that whole fucking thing up because she wanted the cops to believe that there was someone after her, that her kidnapper was still after her. So she got her buddy Noel Kahn to pretend to be A and to set up this like home invasion. So now, you know, Hannah Marin really trusts her because she saw someone in the house. And then the cops are like, well, this mom seems to believe her story, so maybe there is something to it. So now it's like, we can't even trust anything that happens because it could have just been planned by Allison herself. Things get even more dramatic in this situation because at one point the girls kind of corner Noel Kahn because he has a bunch of pictures of Allison out on the town when she's supposed to be dead. And he's like, this is my insurance because I think if Allison tries to sell me down the river, which she probably will, this is my proof that she's lying and it'll keep her from framing me for anything. And then he also goes, by the way, I think Allison blew up Toby's house. Jesus Christ. So now I'm thinking like, is Allison just the big bad guy? She truly is evil. Because this season we've been kind of rooting for her because she's with our main characters and we're rooting for them as a team. It's easy to forget how absolutely terrible she has been. The insane things that she has done to people. One of which is like blind a human being. And then now that she's back, everyone's falling apart. Even her best friends, the ones that are like on her team, they're falling apart because of her. Like take Hannah, for instance. Hannah is back with Caleb. They're dating again. Heck yeah, shout out Caleb. But they're both going through some really tough times. They're both drinking way too much. Hannah, because she's dealing with Allison, and Caleb, because of whatever trauma he occurred when he was on the Ravenswood spinoff show. I gotta watch that show because I need to know what happened to my boy. Which leads me to my big theory, which is, what if all of the paintings that Bethany Young made, where she's drawing these demons, what if that demon is Allison? We see Mrs. D in the garden with a demon, Allison. We see, a demon walking off with a girl in its arms. Maybe that demon is Allison. I mean, Allison watched her mother bury her, right? Because Mrs. D thought Allison was dead. Allison was conscious, but she couldn't speak or move or say anything. And so she just watched her mother bury her alive, essentially. Now, Mrs. D is dead. Could Allison be the one who killed her as revenge for burying her alive and keeping her killer secret all this time? So what if Bethany Young is the one who hit Allison in the back of the head and Mrs. D did protect Bethany Young, but what they didn't expect was that Allison was still alive. And when she gets out of that grave, thanks to a psychic, she comes back that night and she kills Bethany Young, puts her in that grave, runs off and plots her revenge so that way one day when Allison gets back, she can kill her mother as well. And what's even more damning is all of the A stuff that happened while Allison was dead very well could have been Allison, because we know when Mona ran Hannah over with her car and Hannah was in the hospital, Allison knew about it and showed up at the hospital that night. Allison saved Emily from being in like a burning barn one time. She was around all the time, keeping an eye out for the 4 main girls. She kind of makes it seem like she was looking out for them because she loves them, but what if it's because she was also one of the ones tormenting them? She has been A, just not officially A. She's the one that took over the game from Mona when Mona went to Radley. I know I'm getting a little too hype about this. I know I'm getting a little bit too crazy about this, but I don't think you guys understand what's happening here. Someone showed up to the police station and confirmed Allison's bullshit story that she had told the police. No one else even knows that fucking story except for Allison and her friends and the police. So how would some random dude who just came in from the fucking street know every detail if Allison's not the one who set that up? Because she is A. I truly cannot think of a better twist, a better big reveal for this show than in season 1, when we're sitting here watching this show and we go, you know what would be crazy? If Allison is actually A. Oh God, that would be insane. And then 5 seasons later, it really is possible that Allison is A. It makes sense. Now, obviously, there's some major holes in this theory, as all theories typically do. Like, how does this pertain to Spencer's family? I don't know. How does this have anything to do with Melissa's secret that she told her dad? I don't know. But everything that we've learned so far about the Bethany Young situation really makes me feel like Allison is A. So I am officially locking in Allison for who is A for this batch of episodes. Woo! Dude, the show has been just heating up, and I know I'm getting a little bit too into it, but every episode is just jam-packed with clues and theories. I mean, we even get a badass scene where Caleb punches out Arya's mom's fiance because he hit on Hannah. Okay, I need to calm down. Breathe, Chase. Breathe. It's just a TV show. Is there anything else that I need to mention from these episodes before we move on? Toby wants to be a cop. That's pretty funny. Arya and Ezra are not actually back together. They did hook up, but then Arya was like, that was a mistake. Yeah, it was a mistake, Arya. Everything is a mistake with you and Ezra. At one point, A infiltrates Spencer's eye appointment, and on the eye chart to test your vision, it says, can you see me yet, A? Which it's always hilarious when A does stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much everything I think we need to talk about. Yeah. All right, let's go watch the next few episodes.
Your fault. A.
You think Allison's A?
I think she's gone full on socio.
You have the right to an attorney.
What is this?
I just watched episodes 10, 11, 12, and 13, which is very exciting because every season, usually episode 12 is this crazy like mid-season finale episode. And episode 13 is usually the big Halloween episode. And the Halloween episodes are usually my favorite episodes of the season. However, it's a little different this season because we don't get an Halloween episode, we get a Christmas episode, which was definitely a lot of fun. Now, before we jump into the absolutely insane things that happened in these episodes, let's just take a second, talk about this season so far as a whole. It really feels like this season was supposed to be the final season. It just seems like everything is really wrapping up. Relationships and character arcs and plot lines. And I think maybe I'm reading too much into it. Like, I don't know anything about the behind the scenes or the production. Like, I don't know if it was intended for this to be the final season and then they ended up getting 2 more seasons. But everything's just kind of going perfectly. Like, you know, Hannah has Caleb. Spencer has Toby. Arya has Ezra, which, you know. And Emily has Paige. In the Christmas episode, we see all 8 of those, you know, the 4 couples, these best friends and their boyfriends, and the boyfriends have become best friends, like Caleb and Toby, and then Ezra's involved too. Paige, of course, being Emily's love interest. And it's just like, I'm not gonna lie, it made me a little emotional. I've been watching these characters for like over 75 hours, episodes and episodes and episodes, hours and hours and hours with these characters. And it's just really nice to see them happy, especially when we know everything that they've been through. This is a thing with me. When I was younger in high school, I worked at Walmart. And one summer I worked at the gas station in Walmart, which is essentially just like a box, and you sit in the box. And if anybody has a problem, then you have to take care of it. But I spent that whole summer just watching the show Arrow. And I mean, dude, there were times people walked up to the like $20 on pump 3, and I'm just like sobbing because of an emotional scene in Arrow. I get a little too connected to TV show characters, okay? Sadly, I do know that there is 2 more seasons of Pretty Little Liars after this one, which means that this happy wrapping up of all of these storylines feels like it's not the happy ending of a story, and that it's going to, fall into chaos and disarray probably very shortly. But yeah, I just wanted to take a second to step back from us solving the mystery just to say it's a great show. I love watching the show. A lot of people clown teen dramas, but they fail to understand that it's its own art form, it's its own medium. And shows like Pretty Little Liars and Riverdale and stuff that I've seen so far, incredible pieces of television. Super sick stuff. So now let's talk about what happened in these episodes. Spoiler alert, crazier than you think. Last section, I locked in my theory that Allison is actually A, and that she's actually super evil, like how she always has been. And we got one major prediction correctly, which is I was like, what if Allison is the one who set up that dude to come in and take the blame and like claim that he kidnapped her? That happened. That's true. She did set that up. Allison, as we find out in these episodes, has been doing a lot. And it's infuriating because she's like full on evil again. The show did a great job of making me root for Allison. I was really excited that Allison and her friends were back together again after 2 years of Allison being dead. But just like how Allison manipulates the people around her, kind of feels like she manipulated me. And after the main girls realize that Allison is manipulating them, she's just trying to save herself, they decide to drop her. They are not friends anymore. And they want to go to the cops and come clean about everything. Tell them how Allison made up that kidnapping story, all of it. But before they can, A stops them. And when A stops the girls from doing that, it makes the girls realize, wait, why would A stop us from doing this? Is it because Allison is A? And obviously Allison wouldn't want them to turn her in and, tell her the truth. Then the girls find out that Allison has agreed to talk to the police and do a lie detector test. And during that lie detector test, not only is she lying, and the results aren't showing that she's lying, but she completely throws Spencer under the bus. Really makes it seem like Spencer is the one who killed Bethany Young, which makes Spencer the cops' #1 suspect. Now, our 4 main girls then team up with Mona to try to figure out how to stop Allison from whatever she is up to. And it's just really crazy because Allison is just a full-on sociopath at this point. Mona brings this point up and says that the reason that Allison chose these 4 friends in particular are because each one of them individually doesn't do much for a sociopath, but together, it's all of the traits that someone needs to feed off of. And Allison is kind of proving Mona to be correct. She's turned Mona's whole mafia against her, and now Allison is building an army of her own. And because the kidnapper, quote unquote kidnapper, showed up at the police department, proved that Allison was telling the truth. I'm doing air quotes for all of this for the people that aren't watching the screen, just listening. So the cops fully believe Allison's story because this guy confirmed it, and then he ran off and they can't find him. So they're like, oh God, that's the kidnapper. We let him loose. Then she did a lie detector test, passed it completely. So they're like, she's not a suspect at all anymore. She's free to go. So now everybody in the town just feels bad for Allison because, you know, she's not a person of interest. So in everyone's mind, it's like, well, she's not the bad guy then. She's a victim. And it's really sinking in for the girls how evil Allison actually is. At one point, Emily and Allison kind of have a standoff. Emily is actually trying to manipulate Allison, and it almost works. But this is where we really need to applaud the actress who plays Allison, because there's this moment. So Allison's turned around. Her face is facing the camera here, but Emily's behind her looking at Allison at the back of Allison's head. And we can see Allison's face, but Emily can't. And Allison just has this evil grin on her face. She looks like an evil mastermind. And then she turns around, and as she turns around, the camera switches. And in that split second where Allison's face is not seen, her face is completely changed. She looks like she cares so deeply about Emily, just like she loves Emily so much. You would have never thought that a split second before she had the most evil look on her face. It's an incredible performance, dude. And I've been thinking about this a lot, but I think Allison, especially now that we're getting to see a lot of Allison in the show and not just in flashbacks or, well, yeah, flashbacks. I might be crazy. Allison De Laurentiis might be one of the greatest TV characters ever written. Anyway, Spencer gets arrested for Bethany Young's murder. Once Spencer gets arrested, Mona actually goes into full-on action mode to try to fix things. Trying to save Spencer, trying to find proof that Allison is A, because all of the girls, including Mona, are dead set that Allison is A. Mona actually manages to find proof that Allison is A, but right after Mona finds it, we see A in Mona's house. And notice how I said A is in Mona's house and not Allison, because the black hood that A is wearing in Mona's house falls off, but we never see the face. We just see blonde hair, and it honestly looks a lot like Allison's hair, but we never see her face. The show purposely does not show us her face or his face, A's face. And A murders Mona. The girls walk into Mona's house and sees the blood everywhere. The cops show up, and the cops are like, we did not find a body, but the amount of blood on the premises tells us that Mona Vanderwall was murdered. Then we get a scene from A's point of view, and we see that Mona is actually dead in the trunk of A's car. And I say that she's actually dead because usually in moments like this, we'll see a character with their eyes closed in the trunk of a car or something. And it's like, well, they could be sleeping, they could be knocked out, they could be in a coma, or they could be dead. Mona's eyes are wide open, and the show really pushes in on those open eyes to show us, the audience, hey, this is for real this time. Mona is dead. And then we watch A take the baby Jesus from a nativity set for Christmas decorations, and A replaces the baby Jesus with a doll that looks just like Mona. Now, I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know if it's supposed to be like, you know, Mona was crucified in a lot like how Jesus was, or like Mona was some sort of sacrifice paying for the sins of the main girls. I have no clue, but it is legitimately one of the funniest things that A has ever done. Like, A killed someone and then was like, you are the baby Jesus now. But seriously, Mona is dead. And I just like how I said I was very emotional about the Christmas episode where the girls were so happy, I also got a little emotional about Mona being dead. Because even though Mona did some terrible things, remember, she is the original A. She's the one who like ran Hannah over with her car. She harassed and traumatized the main characters for 2 seasons. All kinds of stuff. The show has done just a great job of really making you fall back in love with a character, even though we despised that character not that long ago. They did it with Allison at the beginning of this season. They've managed to do it with Mona this season. They even do it with Ezra to a certain extent. The big difference is like, it's really hard to forgive Ezra. I know that's crazy because Mona ran Hannah over with a car and like almost killed her. But it's way easier to forgive Mona for that. Especially when you start to sympathize with Mona, because all of the things that she did as A was due to like, she wasn't mentally well. And the reason that she was not mentally well is because she was driven to that breaking point by Allison. I mean, dude, there's one point where Mona's mom pulls Hannah to the side and she's like, now that Allison's back, is it starting again? And Hannah's like, I don't know, but I know Mona's scared. We all are. And the look on Mona's mom's face is heartbreaking because it's like her daughter has been put through so much by one person to the point where Mona ended up locked up in a mental hospital due to the actions of Allison. And when we see flashbacks with Mona, especially with Hannah, you realize that all Mona ever wanted was friends. And now she's just dead. Her whole life was ruined. Because remember, she's 16, 17. Her entire childhood, she was terrorized by Allison to the point where it broke her. Then she spent the last, 2 years locked up in a hospital and in this crazy game of terrorizing the girls, but then also having to watch your back constantly by all the other stuff that's going on. And then things kind of start to get better. Then Allison shows back up, scares her to death, and then now she's just dead. And Allison might have been the one who killed her, which kind of puts the bow on the crazy present, And I say might have been the one to kill Mona, and I'll explain more. Allison throws a giant Christmas ball for the town, and our main characters use this Christmas ball as an opportunity to try to figure out what is going on. Trying to figure out what Allison's big plan is as A. And we get some wild moments at this Christmas ball. Allison has a whole new squad of people, for lack of a better term, working with her, working for her. It's a friend group, but we know what they're doing. Like she has these creepy twins that wear doll masks. I don't know what's up with that. Jenna and Sydney, one second. That's this girl. This girl's named Sydney. She's like a new character that was introduced in this season. At first, it looked like she was going to be some sort of love interest with Emily. She was helping Emily out a lot. Then we very quickly realized she's very good friends with Jenna. And now her and Jenna are part of Allison's new little clique. And we find out that it's because they're terrified and they think that Allison killed Mona. So they're trying to stay close to her so that way they're not on the target list. Then Allison is seen kissing someone in a Santa costume. And then later, guess who's wearing that exact same Santa costume? Detective Holbrook. Now, I don't know if you remember much about Detective Holbrook. He is one of the 2 detectives that is working the Allison De Laurentiis case. And lately, he's been acting pretty suspicious because he is the officer that just arrested Spencer for the death of Bethany Young. And now we find out that he has some sort of relationship with Allison. Allison has a habit of manipulating men into doing her dirty work. And remember Detective Wilden? It's literally the same situation. So basically, TLDR, Allison's the devil. It strongly seems like she is A. But there is one major issue. Everything in this show is lining up for Allison to be A. And not only just like where the story is going right now, but just like taking a step back. If I was the one writing this show, what better ending than Allison, the girl who kickstarted this entire thing, being the person who did it all along? It really goes back to what I was saying about how this feels like it's supposed to be the final season. It just feels like this is going to be a great, perfect ending. Allison is A. All of this was the result of one person and how one person can affect so many lives. What a great story, right? But this is not the last season. This is not the ending. And there's some major issues with the idea that Allison is A. But before we poke holes into why I don't think Allison is A, let's talk about everything that lines up that makes it seem like she is A. We learn a lot about Bethany Young in these episodes. And honestly, we were pretty close with our theory in the last section. It all starts off with Spencer's sister Melissa leaving Spencer a video explaining what the big secret is before she disappears and goes off to London to live with her boyfriend, Ren. You guys remember Ren. And the big secret is that on the night that Allison disappeared, Melissa saw Spencer and Allison fighting. Then she sees Spencer walking away with a shovel in her hand, Later on, she walks through Allison's backyard and she sees a body dressed in the same clothes as Allison. And even though she didn't see the face, she saw the head wound, assumed it was Allison, and in order to protect her little sister Spencer, pushes this body into the hole and covers it up, burying it. Now, at the time, Melissa thought that Spencer had just killed Allison, so she thought she was burying Allison's body to protect her sister. But when Allison showed back up alive, Melissa realized that must not have been Allison that I pushed into a hole and buried. She buried the body of a random person, Bethany Young. And to make matters worse, Bethany did not die from the head wound that she received. She ended up suffocating from being buried alive, which means that even though Melissa is not the one that gave Bethany Young the head wound that had her laying on the ground, she is technically the person who killed her. Melissa tells her sister Spencer this, and it's honestly a very beautiful moment. It kind of provides a lot of closure between this sister relationship that has been extremely rocky since season 1. Goes along with my whole thing of like, it feels like the last season. Like things are really just wrapping up and everyone's getting closure for different things. Now, what does Melissa's big secret tell us? It tells us we know a little bit more about what happened. You know, Allison got hit in the head. Her mom buried her in the yard. Psychic came, got Allison out. Then later on, Bethany is in the same spot. Bethany Young is in the same spot where Allison was killed, quote unquote killed, attacked. Someone else hits Bethany Young in the head, leaves the body just laying there on the ground. Then Melissa comes around, thinks it's Allison's body and that her sister killed her, and buries it in the same spot that Allison had just been buried earlier in the night. Pretty insane stuff, right? It still leaves us with a major question, which is, yes, Melissa technically killed Bethany Young, but who hit Bethany in the head? We do not know for sure. However, in this batch of episodes, we do learn a lot about Bethany Young and her relationship to Mrs. De Laurentiis and Allison. During the Christmas episode, Allison has a little bit of like Ghost from Christmas Past type hallucination nightmare dream, starring dead Mona. So, you know, Mona's a ghost in this dream, nightmare, and kind of shows Allison a memory from Allison's past, a Christmas memory from Allison's past. Allison's a very little girl. She's playing the piano in her house. She hits a note. It's not working, so she opens up the piano. Inside, she sees 2 Christmas presents that have been hidden in the piano. She opens them up and she sees 2 identical yellow Christmas sweaters. Her mom, Mrs. D, catches her doing this. And Allison is like, oh, how funny. You and Dad both got me the same gift accidentally. And Mrs. D is like, no. When we talked to your father about this, there was only 1 yellow sweater. Do you understand me? 1 yellow sweater. Your father will leave us. You have to tell him it was 1 gift, 1 yellow sweater. So, you know, Mrs. D, who was the other yellow sweater for? Let me take 2 guesses. Bethany Young. We find out that Allison's mother, Mrs. D, was having an affair with Bethany Young's father. And we find out some other little things to where I think I know what happened. It seems like Mrs. D was secretly raising 2 daughters at the same time. She had her daughter, Allison, and then she also had this Bethany Young daughter, who was either the daughter of the guy that she was having an affair with, or potentially maybe her secret child, like how we've theorized before in this video. Like when she bought Allison a Christmas gift, Bethany Young got the exact same one. And this goes on and on and on for years and years. Because remember, if Allison's mom is buying Bethany Young a Christmas sweater when Allison is very little, then that means Bethany Young was very little. And then later on, we know that Allison's mom was taking Bethany to horse stables to adopt a pony when she was older, like 15, 16, 17 even. So this had been going on for 10 years. Eventually, Allison found out about Bethany, finds out about the other daughter getting the attention from her mother, getting the same gifts that she was being given. And we find out from a batch of letters that Hannah finds in Allison's things that Allison and Bethany Young had been writing letters to each other. And Allison had actually invited Bethany to their house on the night that everything went down, Labor Day. Allison's death, quote unquote death, Bethany Young's death. Allison lured Bethany Young into that situation. And Bethany was wearing an exact replica of the outfit that Allison was wearing that night. That's what made it so confusing, right? Why in the world is the dead body that we found in Allison's grave been wearing the same exact yellow shirt or dress or whatever it is that Allison was wearing that same night? It really feels like Allison had set that whole thing up. And since Allison is a genius, she can kind of set the whole thing up to make it look like Spencer did it. Now she's getting off scot-free and Spencer's taking the fall. It really is a beautiful big reveal if that was the case, right? Because not only did Allison get revenge for this other girl who was getting the attention from her mother that she deserved, but she then gets revenge on her mother. And the next thing you know, it's just like Allison, all these years later, is one of the only ones still alive in her family, innocent by the police. Someone else is taking the blame for all of the things that she's done, and everyone loves her again. But here's the issue. I do not think Allison is A. And the major reason is the scene where Mona is murdered. The whole time during that scene, we are looking at the back of the murderer's head, and it's the long blonde hair. It looks like Allison's hair. So it's like, the show is like, hey, look, it's Allison, but yet they refuse to show us the face. Why would you do that? Why would you want the audience to know that it's Allison and then not show us that it's actually Allison? And I think it's a very easy answer. It's someone in a blonde wig or someone that has long blonde hair that's just not Allison. We are supposed to believe that it is Allison, but it's not. And if Allison is not the one who killed Mona, then that means that there is an A still out there. Because two things can be true. Allison can still be evil and making terrible decisions and manipulating people and forcing Spencer to take the fall for her own actions. And there's an A out here doing crazy stuff, like killing Allison's mom, killing Mona, killing Bethany Young, attacking Allison all those years ago. In the Christmas episode, towards the end, after the whole Ghost of Christmas Past moment, we kind of get a Ghost of Christmas Future moment where Allison's in her nightmare and she sees a casket and it's her own body in the casket. Her legs have been sawed off or whatever. And Allison's own mother walks up to her in the dream and she goes, "They'll be coming for you soon." I think that what that's implying is that A is out there and Allison is in very real danger. But that does not mean that Allison is being a good person. She can still be this evil, manipulative person and not be the big bad guy that we're looking for. So it's time for me to lock in my guess for who I think A is. And honestly, we've been all over this ghost girl theory. Like, we've been really close. We've missed some major details. We haven't had all of the like facts right, but we have danced around this whole Bethany Young situation pretty well, I think. But that doesn't really help us figure out who A is. So I'm struggling to figure out if it's not Allison, then who is it? Mona's dead, so it can't be her. I don't think it's Jason. Jason's run off out of town again. He hasn't even been in the past few episodes. Mrs. D is dead. Melissa has gone to London, so she's completely out of the situation. I don't even know who's even left for us to accuse, which means that usually I would accuse Ezra. It's always fun to accuse Ezra, but it just doesn't really work anymore. It feels like the show has like just decided, hey, no, Ezra's not a suspect. Guys, Ezra is like a part of Arya's family now. Like, her family invites him to Thanksgiving. They're out in public together as a couple, and it's not weird and like hiding and sneaky. It's just like, it's acceptable now, I guess, because he's no longer her teacher. And I think our main characters are turning 18, so maybe they're just like, well, it's okay now. It's all right. So I genuinely cannot think of another person who could be A other than Allison. I might just have to lock in that theory, even though I just every part of me is like, Allison is not A. I don't know who would be. I could come up with some wild theories, right? Like there's Mike, who is Arya's little brother. Now, I don't have space on the board to put Mike up here, but you guys know Mike. We've talked about, he's been around since season 1. Arya's little brother, Mike, was actually like dating Mona before she died. So then there's like, okay, well, what if Mike is A? And all of this was a big part of like a master plan and he killed Mona. You know, that'd be insane behavior, but it's a possibility. Then there's, we could do like Mona is not dead. She's been secretly A this entire time. What better twist reveal than A has been the same person that was revealed as A at the end of season 2, where it's like, haha, you thought she got better, but she didn't. She's been evil this whole time. And it's almost like a triple reverse reveal at that point, because at first the show was like, Mona is evil and she might have killed Allison. But then the show was like, nope, Allison is alive and Allison might have killed Mona. But then it hits you with the triple and it's like, nope, Mona's alive and she might have killed Allison. Yeah, I mean, I could come up with wacky theories like that. I could take Arya or Emily and come up with some insane theory of how they could maybe be A. But realistically, with everything that we're dealing with in this show right now, I cannot find a logical motive or reason for anyone to be A other than Allison. I think I'm just going to have to lock in Allison until we get more information. Plus, I just feel like Allison deserves all of our wrath right now, because at one point in this season, she had a dog named Pepe. And then like, we have not seen that dog since. I think she killed that dog. All right, I'm locking in Allison. Let's go watch the next batch of episodes and see if we can get some sort of spark of a theory or an idea.
Each one hated the other.
Showing up to your victim's funeral?
Because each one feared the other.
I'm gonna go to jail because of her.
Betrayal
You're A. Stop saying that.
and loss.
And you killed her because she had proof. Somebody's dead because of her. All I want is the truth.
I just watched episodes 14, 15, 16, and 17. We've hit that weird part of the season. We get this every season. I'm acting as if I've watched them as it was airing on television. Oh, I gotta wait 6 months before the next season. Every season, we kind of get this moment where everything is so crazy at the beginning, and then things kind of calm down for a little bit, and then things get crazy again towards the finale of the season. And that's where we're at right now. Things have calmed down a little bit. So let's de-escalate the mood. I'm gonna do this whole section as if it's like ASMR and you guys are trying to go to sleep. I'm not gonna do that the whole time. It'd be funny though. I'm gonna put out a whole Pretty Little Liars recap video. It's 28 hours long and it's just me putting you to sleep, talking about Pretty Little Liars. Last section, I locked in Allison as A because I couldn't think of anyone else to lock in. I'm done. This batch of episodes, I hate to inform you though, it doesn't give us too much more to work with. In fact, what it really does is really submit the idea that Allison is not A, really brings that point home, but I cannot think of any other alternatives for who could be A. At this point, Allison is in jail for the murder of Mona. Turns out that Mona had cameras hidden in her house. And when the 4 main girls found out about that, they were able to get that footage to the police. And then the cops, see the footage of Mona being murdered. Now, what's very important is that the footage does not show the killer's face, just the long blonde hair that looks like Allison. So that, combined with the fact that Jason, Allison's older brother, goes to the police and tells them that Allison was not with them like she said she was during Mona's murder, and that he doesn't know where she was while Mona was being murdered. So because of that, the cops, Lieutenant Tanner and Detective Holbrook, they think that Allison, well, I say Detective Holbrook, we'll get into Holbrook in a minute. Let's just say Lieutenant Tanner really believes that Allison is the one who killed Mona, and they've been doing more investigating, and not only do they think that Allison killed Mona, they think that Allison killed Bethany Young, which means that the charges that were pressed against Spencer are dropped. So she is no longer, dealing with being arrested for the murder of Bethany Young. But there's a whole new issue happening now. Spencer is in the clear, but A is trying to frame Hannah. A is framing Hannah for the murder of Mona, and the girls, they all think that Allison is A. So they think that Allison is getting some help from a certain Detective Holbrook to try and frame Hannah for the murder of Mona, so that way Allison gets out of jail and Mona takes the fall. And that's how the main girls are explaining how A keeps doing things while Allison is in prison. They think that her new love interest, Detective Holbrook, is the one doing all of the A stuff. What things have A been up to? Has A been up to? Well, at one point, A attacks Aria, steals Mona's laptop from her. We see fireworks. I believe it's New Year's Eve when this happens, and there's fireworks being shot up, and fireworks form a giant red A in the sky. At one point, A plants a bloody knife in the woods, and it's believed that that is the knife that was the murder weapon that killed Mona, and guess whose fingerprints were probably on it? The person who's been getting framed for everything, Hannah, because this knife belonged to Toby's family and was in Toby's family's cabin, which is where Caleb has been staying. And Hannah's been hanging out in that cabin with him, which means, you know, once again, A is trying to frame Hannah. Spencer and Caleb work together to go find that knife and destroy it. Speaking of destroying that knife, A locks Caleb in a kiln, which is a giant oven for pottery, I think. Almost burns him to death. A sends Aria threats that A is going to reveal to Ezra a letter that Aria wrote about Ezra for college admission. And one of these threats was printed out on the longest CVS receipt I've ever seen. It was just like, it was at the Brew, which is the coffee shop that everybody used to hang out at, and Emily used to work at, but then it went up for sale after the owner, which was Aria's mom's fiance. That whole relationship fell apart because Aria's mom's fiance hit on Hannah. So then he left. The Brew was for sale. Ezra bought the coffee shop and has turned it into a bookshop / coffee shop. And Aria got a coffee. The receipt is printing, and the full contents of the letter that Aria wrote about Ezra is on the receipt. I didn't need to go into all the weeds on that situation, but I wanted to. Allison gets a message from A while she is in prison that says, "Your friends will join you soon," a threat that A is going to frame all of the girls for Mona's murder and get them sent to jail with her, I guess. A sends flowers to Hannah's mom as like a little fun little message saying that A knows about Hannah's mom sleeping with Jason. That was a whole thing. Because remember, Hannah's mom's dating that pastor guy, and then apparently the pastor guy is going to try to propose. It's a whole thing. You guys should watch Pretty Little Liars. The girls managed to track Mona's missing laptop that was stolen by A to a storage unit. And in this storage unit, there is a barrel that may or may not contain Mona's body. The storage unit, we find out, is registered in Hannah's name, so once again, A is framing Hannah for Mona's murder. Then, when Hannah and Caleb show up at the storage unit to try to get rid of any evidence that would frame her for the murder, guess who shows up? Lieutenant Tanner and her, new best cop, Toby. And last but not least, A tricks the girls into going to an abandoned ice cream factory where A proceeds to lock Spencer and Aria in a super nitrogen oxide cooler that is going to freeze them to death. Luckily, Emily manages to get them out. Few people have ever worked this hard at villainy. When this show ended, they should have retired A's jersey up in the rafters. We have to get A Hall of Fame ring of villainy. We should add a face to the side of Mount Rushmore that's A's face. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, and A, our founding fathers. We should start a rumor that A is the person who killed Paul McCartney before the Abbey Road album cover, and that's why he's barefoot. We should have A be the spokesperson who tries to sell everything on cable TV instead of Shaq being the one that does that. Oh, you want some icy hot? Buy it from A, who almost burned Caleb alive and then froze Arya and Spencer to death. A should have bought Twitter. No one's ever done it like A. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, like I said, the girls think that Detective Holbrook is the one doing all of these things while Allison is in prison, and Allison is still A. She's just getting help from her new romantic partner. And I'm not saying that Holbrook isn't doing some of this stuff, but I think it's very clear that A is an entity outside of Allison. Allison is not A. I do not think that Allison killed Mona. I don't know about Bethany Young yet, but I am almost positive that Allison did not kill Mona, which means that someone else did kill Mona, which means that it's probably A. I do not know who A could possibly be. This part of the season, the cast is beginning to change up a little bit as well, which has happened in seasons before. Like, Melissa is gone. She's in London. Mona is dead. Paige has officially left Rosewood. It appears that Ezra is actually breaking up with Arya this time. Jenna has barely been in the show this season. And then we've been getting introduced to some new characters as well. Like, there's this new cook at the brew, and she's a chef, and it's kind of like it's being set up that she's going to be Emily's new love interest. Because God forbid Emily does not have a love interest. There's this Sydney girl. Where did I put Sydney? The Sydney girl I was telling you about that's like best friends with Jenna. She's been introduced this season. We meet this really weird motherfucker named Johnny Raymond. He's renting out Spencer's family's guest house. And I believe that his purpose of being in the show is that he's going to create some sort of love triangle between Spencer, Toby, and Johnny Raymond. Because Toby is like full cop mode now, and it's kind of ruining his relationship with Spencer. Now, obviously, we know Toby. We know that Toby would do absolutely anything for Spencer. But we have seen him do this kind of thing before, where he will take himself completely away from Spencer, and we think, oh my God, remember when we thought he was A, and Spencer thought he was A? If he feels like what he is doing is protecting Spencer, or is what's best for Spencer, he will do it. And he's so determined to be the one cop in Rosewood that isn't, evil or corrupt or working for A. And then there's, Tanner and Holbrook, who aren't new characters, but they're definitely way more involved this season, especially Lieutenant Tanner, who, how do I explain her vibe? The guy who hosts Bar Rescue? She's kind of like him if she was a lieutenant in the police force. So the cast kind of shifting and changing right here in the middle of the season is very interesting to me, because obviously we cannot lock in characters who are no longer around, like Paige. And then we can't really lock in the brand new characters like the new chef at the brew, because we barely know them and it wouldn't make any sense for them to be A. So who does that even leave us to look into or to suspect or theorize about? Kind of just the main four girls, Emily, Arya, Spencer, and Hannah. But we have been down that road a million times. And every single time that we begin to suspect one of the four main girls, the end of that road is a dead end. It's never one of the four girls, and I don't think it will ever be one of the four girls. And so I'm truly stumped, genuinely stumped. I have no idea who to even begin to point fingers at. Because one of my favorite things about doing these videos on this show is that it's such a sandbox for coming up with fun theories, because really anything is possible. But all you really need to make theories is to have some sort of suspect, some sort of guiding light on who could be A, right? But at this point, I have no clue who could possibly be A. It's almost as if every single character we've ever met has been officially, like, in the court of law, they are definitely not A. And then there's no new suspects that make logical sense. I can come up with wacky theories, right? Like, I can do, Mona's not actually dead, and Mona's been secretly behind this the whole time. And I can make that theory work, right? I can go, well, who else would want to blame Allison and the 4 main girls for all of these murders that have taken place? Obviously, someone who hates them and wants revenge. Who is one of the only characters that we know that hates them that much and wants revenge? That would be Mona. Now, there are other characters like that, like Lucas the yearbook guy, or even Jenna. But the lack of involvement in the show from Jenna and Lucas the yearbook guy makes it almost impossible for it to be them as A. Not to mention that we've been down that road with Jenna a million times, and she is not A. She is just another victim of Allison's games. Plus, add on the fact that I truly just think Mona is dead this time. The way that they shot the scene of her in the trunk of A's car, where they really close up on her eye being open, it was just like, guys, we know we've played this game before, where characters are dead. This time, she is not asleep. She is not knocked out. She is not in a coma. She's dead. So, I can't even really go down that road of like, well, what if it all is Mona? Because I don't believe it. I think it's much more likely that it's a super wacky thing like, a ghost did it. So, at the risk of looking like a terrible detective and being bad at kind of my only job, which is to come up with theories and suspects of who could be A, I have nothing. And so I'm just going to have to lock in Allison is A again until we can get some sort of more information. All I need is a scrap of a clue or a theory, and I can run with that. But as of right now, I have nothing. So all we can do is go watch the next batch of episodes, and then we will come back and we will try to figure out who is A.
Ghosts don't have fingers, so how was Mona sending us texts?
Not a ghost. An alert.
What did you and Caleb find?
So much blood on these clothes.
I'm pretty sure that Mona's body is hidden inside of it.
They could pin Mona's murder on us.
I have just watched the greatest scene in Pretty Little Liars history. I just watched episodes 18, 19, 20, and 21. And in this batch of episodes, we watch Hannah, do one of the most embarrassing dance routines I have ever seen in my entire life. I do not think that I have ever laughed harder at Pretty Little Liars than I have during this scene. And you know that this is a serious moment because I never do B-roll in these videos, but this is the scene. This is her dancing. It's been playing while I'm talking. I'm willing to risk the insane copyright laws on here for you guys to witness this. Now, obviously, I can't play the music because then I'd definitely get got. But yeah, just enjoy the visuals for a moment. This is incredible. All right, back to the mystery. Last section, I was very concerned because I feel like I had no one to work with. I had no direction to go down. Thankfully, in this batch of episodes, we learn a lot of information, and I have a new theory. Something that's very interesting about these episodes is most of them surround Mike, who is Arya's little brother. And then what's very funny about this is earlier in the video, as like a random example of a bad theory, I was like, what if Mike is running around and doing Allison's dirty work? Dude, that becomes the main theory in this batch of episodes. Like, the girls find out that Mike visited Allison in jail. Then Arya follows him to this like bridge in the middle of the woods where he leaves candy on the bridge. And in that scene when Arya's like, what are you doing here? Don't do this. He's like, I'm not taking orders from anyone anymore. That's very strange, right? Very strange behavior from Mike. Why is he leaving a bag of candy on this bridge? Is there a magical troll that lives under it that accepts candy in exchange for wishes? And his big wish is that Mona, his girlfriend who died, is still alive? That's fun. The girls also see him stealing blood from the local blood drive, particularly their blood. Then Arya picks up Mike's phone. It's a phone call from the prison. And it's like, do you accept this call from the local prison? It's from, and then they say their name, and the name is Hank Mahoney. Then the girls are following him around. They find out that Mike has like 18 grand in a bank account. So something's definitely up. The girls are super suspicious of Mike. They follow him and they see Mike meeting up with Hank Mahoney. Now, Hank Mahoney ends up being an alias of that Cyrus guy, the guy who went to the police station and was like, I'm the one who kidnapped Allison. And then we get this moment after Mike and Hank Mahoney, or Cyrus, whatever you want to call him, are meeting at this diner where the girls actually confront Cyrus. And this moment where they confront Cyrus, I think, is extremely, extremely important for a reason that I will get into in a moment. First, let's keep talking about Mike. They find that Mike has a golden necklace that he's bought. They're like, did he buy this gold necklace for Allison? Is Allison manipulating him into doing all of this? Is he madly in love with Allison now? Did Allison manipulate him into killing Mona even? Arya follows Mike into the woods again. We see that Mike has stashed something in a tree. Arya finds it. It's a vial of blood. She freaks out and confronts him once again, and that's where we finally get some answers from Mike. Mike tells us and Arya what actually happened to Mona. It turns out that Mona was working with A to try to get Allison put in prison. Mona had been drawing vials and vials and vials of her own blood and storing it so that way she could cover her house with her own blood, enough blood to make it seem like she had been murdered. Mona and A would fake Mona's death, get Allison arrested for Mona's murder, and then Mona was going to disappear, try to figure out who A actually was. Then Mona would be able to reveal A's identity, come back, tell everyone I'm alive. Allison would get released from jail because obviously you can't be in prison for killing someone who's alive, which is, by the way, exactly how O.J. Simpson got off. So that was Mona and A's big plan. They were working together, right? And Mona really trusted Mike, and she actually let Mike in on the plan, so he helped Mona with it. But then, pretty quickly after Mona died, Mike began to realize that he thinks that A double-crossed Mona and A actually murdered Mona. It was supposed to be faking Mona's death, but really, A killed Mona. Now, Mike is devastated because he feels like since he knew about the plan, if he would have stepped up and stopped that plan from happening, Mona would still be alive. And that makes the story of Mona even more devastating. We've talked about it before in this video, but now knowing that Mona died because she was so afraid of Allison that she decided to team up with a psychopath, A, in order to try to get Allison in jail so that way she could feel a little bit safer. And that to be her downfall, it's heartbreaking. How could one person cause so much fear and heartbreak and tragedy? Allison De Laurentiis, you are truly Shakespearean. They should write Greek myths about Allison. If Allison was alive way back then, she would have been the one that started the Trojan War. Prince Paris would have abducted Allison De Laurentiis, the wife of the Spartan king. The Iliad is a book written about Allison De Laurentiis. When you go and see the Odyssey from Christopher Nolan, just know that that Odysseus, his Odyssey, was searching for Allison De Laurentiis. But yeah, Mike pretty much solidifies to the girls that Allison is not A. Then there was also a confrontation with Detective Holbrook, which pretty much submitted to the girls that Detective Holbrook has not been helping Allison. So the whole theory that Allison is A and Holbrook's been doing her dirty work while she's in jail is officially eliminated from our main character's agenda. Speaking of Holbrook, he got suspended because he helped alter the results of Allison's lie detector test, so his career is pretty much fucked. Speaking of people getting fucked, remember the Cyrus guy? Cyrus or Hank, whatever, Mahoney. When we originally see the scene where Mike is meeting up with Cyrus, the initial thought of me and probably the main girls is, oh, these two are working with A. But it turns out that Cyrus might actually be afraid of A and was working with Mike against A. And the reason that I bring this up is because Arya and Hannah go and visit Cyrus because it turns out he was in the hospital. They go to the hospital, he's got severe burns. And Arya's like, oh, well, we came to talk to you, but we didn't realize you were in such a bad accident. And he's like, not an accident. And then he like writes a word on a piece of paper and it says Varjack. Now the girls very quickly realize that Varjack is an alias that A has been using when communicating and working with Cyrus. And since he misspelled the name Varjack on the paper, it means that he had never seen or read the name Varjack, which means that he had been meeting with Varjack in person. And if Varjack is A, then that means that Cyrus is one of the only people who has seen A in person, which is probably why he's in the hospital. A was trying to cut any loose ends of people that know their true identity. If A knew that I was alive and trying to solve who they were, A would probably be coming after me, dude. The very last thing that we get in this batch of episodes, the last thing that we see before the end of the episode, and that's everything we've watched, is Hannah goes to Allison and asks, who is Varjack? Will she have an answer? We don't know yet. We'll find that out. But if Allison does know who Varjack is, then that's who A is. Now, back to Cyrus. This is what's very interesting about Cyrus. There was that moment where the girls confront Cyrus after Cyrus's meeting with Mike. And in this confrontation, Cyrus kind of offers a deal. He's like, how about we make a trade? Insinuating he will tell them everything that he knows about Varjack or A in exchange for something. We don't get that far because of what happens next. Andrew, who, if you remember, we've mentioned, has been more involved this season than ever before. He actually was the one who gave the girls a ride following Mike to his meeting with Cyrus. So when he sees the girls being confronted by this sketchy looking dude, he walks up with a baseball bat and he's like, how about you run on? And, you know, it comes across like he's trying to protect his friends because he doesn't know what's really going on. He doesn't understand that Cyrus might have been very useful and given a lot of good information, right? He's just trying to protect his friends. But I kind of wondered, what if the reason that he walked up with the baseball bat and told Cyrus to scram was not to protect the girls, but to keep Cyrus from telling the girls any information? Welcome to my new theory. And before we get into the theory, I know what you're thinking. Chase, are you only thinking it's Andrew because he's the only other character that's possibly a suspect? Yes. Chase, are you thinking it's Andrew because he's a character who's been around for a while, but we usually don't see him this much? Yes. Chase, are you accusing him because it seems a little bit too obvious in this batch of episodes? Perhaps. Am I ashamed that I don't have a good reason to go after him other than very obvious, blatant reasons? No. Because check it out, Andrew has been a background character since back in like season 3. I actually think we met him like in episode 1 of season 3 or something like that. He was a part of Spencer's whole like decathlon team. He's one of the first characters that we met in the new season after the big Mona is A reveal in the season 2 finale. So for seasons 3, 4, and now 5, he has been around. But lately, he's gotten involved with Arya to the point where they actually kiss. These two right here. Chase, isn't Arya still kind of with Ezra? Yeah, she is. And I haven't even really been talking about Andrew that much in this video because even though he's been heavily involved, to me, it just kind of played as in the show introduced Andrew as a new love interest for Arya to help the issues that had been going on with Arya and Ezra, because this whole season has kind of been a bit of a back and forth. Like they're back together, but then they're like, maybe that's not a good idea. And then Arya's like, no, I'm fully into it. But then Ezra's like, I don't want to hold you back. Like you should be meeting new people. And also you're a high schooler. And so I just really thought that the introduction of him as a love interest with Arya is very similar to the new chef that works at the brew with Emily, right? It's just because Paige left town and Emily needs a new love interest to keep that side of the teen drama-ing. But on a deeper level, what do we know about Andrew as a character? We know that he's a super genius on the level of a Spencer or Mona because he's on the same decathlon team as them. He's been going to school with our main characters for years and years and years at this point. And at the same time that we see A infiltrating Arya's house, messing with Mike. In fact, there's one point where we see A go in and mess with Mike's bench press. And if it wasn't for the fact that Arya accidentally knocks the whole thing over and it collapses, because it was altered with, when Mike was using it, it would have collapsed on him and like crushed his head, right? So very, very interesting coincidence that as A is in Arya's home, it's at the same time as Andrew has been at Arya's house a whole lot because he's been tutoring her. And also, never forget that when we were going through Spencer's pill addiction storyline, Andrew was the one that was kind of dealing her the pills for a little while. Which, even though it's not like he was like a pure drug dealer, like it wasn't like a shady, I deal drugs for a living type situation, it still shows us that morally, on the character's spectrum, it leads towards immoral. And if none of that is good enough reason to suspect Andrew, his name starts with A. Now, I do not have a motive, right? Which is a big issue. But I could come up with some. Maybe he had a relationship with Allison. Didn't everyone else in this goddamn town? We know that Bethany Young is heavily involved in this storyline this season. Maybe he's related to Bethany Young in some capacity. And I know that I've brought this up before, but I can't help but feel, and I can't believe I haven't noticed this before, but it just goes to show you how much of a background character he truly has been. Like, he's not noticeable most of the seasons, but at the beginning of season 3, episode 1, when Mona has been revealed as A, and the show has to introduce to us a new A for us to try to solve, we also get the introduction of Andrew as a new character. It's almost like the show set them up at the same time. So even though I don't have like a good motive or really any tangible evidence, I'm feeling really good about the Andrew theory. Because like I said, it started to get a bit obvious towards the end of this batch of episodes that there's something more to Andrew than meets the eye. Moving on, we learn some more information about Bethany Young in these episodes. In fact, we get a tape from one of her therapy sessions from Radley's, and we can hear, she says this line of dialogue. She's talking about how much she hates Allison, and she says, "It's me or her. She's not the only one who can make plans." That feels pretty wild, right? Maybe Bethany Young is the person who hit Allison in the back of the head with a rock that night, you know, and then the same exact thing happened to her that same night. It's still getting confusing, but it's like we're getting really close with this whole Bethany Young thing. It's like I feel like we've learned so much about Bethany Young, but yet I don't know if we've ever learned anything at all. That happens a lot with this show. You're like, man, I'm getting a lot of answers. And then you sit and think about it for a second. You're like, I don't think I know anything that's ever happened in this show. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much more to talk about from this batch of episodes. I mean, we could bring up Hannah's dancing again. That was hilarious. Toby is in full cop mode, like we've talked about. He even arrests Spencer's friend, Johnny. I've talked about Johnny. Well, Spencer and Johnny do like an art heist. It's a whole fucking thing. And then Toby like arrests Johnny while Spencer's there. And he's like, "Get out of here, Spencer. This has nothing to do with you." And then because Johnny gets arrested by Toby for an art heist, but it was fair. It was fair. Melissa's mom, or Melissa, I mean, she is Melissa's mom, but Spencer and Melissa's mom kicks Johnny out from being, you know, their tenant because he was renting their guest house. This upsets Spencer. She's very mad at cop Toby. All Tobys are bastards. At one point, an old friend of Mona's shows up to town. Her name is Leslie. Don't really know her deal, but I'm assuming like everyone who shows up in this town, she's evil in some capacity. Oh, another thing I wanted to bring up is in one of these, we got a bunch of flashbacks from when Mona was still alive, with the Leslie girl and with Hannah especially. And in one of these flashbacks, Mona mentions time travel. Now, look, I don't know if this is the kind of show that would introduce time travel. I'm just saying maybe we should keep it in mind. It's a possibility is what I'm trying to say. Because look, you know, we've had some paranormal style stuff happen in this show. Remember that psychic woman? Yeah, that's crazy. There was a ghost girl at one of the Halloween episodes. There's a spinoff of Pretty Little Liars where Caleb goes to like a supernatural town. So it's like, time travel's possible. Maybe this is just me being in my creative writing era, but what if, get this, the finale of Pretty Little Liars, the whole show, the very last episode, season 7 or whatever, the big reveal is that our 4 main girls, Emily, Aria, Spencer, and Hannah, find out that they need to go back in time because they are A. I mean, that'd be pretty badass, huh? I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Because it would explain some of the little things, the little inconsistencies throughout the seasons, right? Like, remember that time that they figured out who made the friendship bracelets that A kept giving them? And so they hunt down the lady that does it, and they're like, who bought these bracelets, lady? And the lady's like, Spencer Hastings bought these. And Spencer's like, what? Well, what if that's because the like modern day main character girls find out that they have to go back in time and be A from the beginning. So the big reveal is our four main characters have been A the whole time. They've been tormenting themselves, you know? And it's like, you know, why is Hannah's name on the storage unit this season? We think it's because A just put Hannah's name down. But what if it's because Hannah's actually the one that rented that storage unit? Because they're having to go through time and set up all of these A things so that way things happen exactly as they're supposed to, or else the whole world will end because of the Mandela effect or butterfly effect or whatever. That's sick as fuck, dude. If that's not the big reveal, as if it could possibly be the big reveal, I'm gonna make it the big reveal. I'm gonna write a Pretty Little Liars fan fiction, a giant book, one of those big old fantasy books that you see on Book Talk. And it's just gonna be the entire events of Pretty Little Liars, but from the perspective of our main characters, our four main girls, time traveling. Okay, enough of all of that. I'm locking in Andrew for who I think A is, mostly because he's the only other character in the show right now. I know that seems kind of lame, but it's true. He's the only one that could really be A as of this moment. So I'm locking in Andrew. We only have 4 episodes left in this season, which means that I'll probably watch 3 episodes. We'll have one more chance to lock in who we think A is before the finale. And then that's it. We'll see if we solved Pretty Little Liars season 5 before the reveal, dude. It's game time. It's time to lock in. So let's go watch the next 3 episodes and see what happens.
Get you out of here, I promise.
Be careful what you promise.
Tuesday.
Someone is doing this to me.
We just have to figure it out. Think like Mona. Just for a minute.
That goddamn parrot Tippy is back. A has had that parrot this entire time. Oh man, what an emotional roller coaster that I have just been on. I watched episodes 22, 23, and 24, which means we officially have 1 episode left, the season 5 finale. So let's just jump right in, guys. Allison has her court case, because she was arrested for the murder of Mona. And Allison is found guilty of murdering Mona. Then, right after the verdict, where it's like Allison's going to jail for life, the cops, especially Lieutenant Tanner, arrest the 4 main girls. Well, 3 of the 4 main girls. I say 3 because Hannah actually got arrested back at episode 22 because they found her blood on Mona's clothes. It was planted there by A, obviously, which means that A has successfully framed our 4 main characters plus Allison, the 5 main girls, for the murder of Mona. The murder of Bethany Young is probably going to be brought up as well. It really is crazy, dude. After all this time, after all these seasons, after all these episodes, A has officially won. I genuinely don't know how they're going to get out of this. Like, Allison was sentenced to life in prison, dude. That's fucking crazy. The only good thing about all of this that's happening is that everyone's finally back on the same page. Everyone's back on the same team. Even Toby, who's just been acting like a dick, they're all back on, it's the main characters. It's like that moment back from the Christmas episode where it's like, it's a wholesome, they're all on the same team. They're like a family. They're working together. It's just now, half the family's in jail for murder. Allison and the girls have been working together. Caleb and Ezra have been working together along with Toby to try to figure all this out. Mike is wanting to help and to actually testify of the information he knows against A. But before he's able to do that, A pepper sprays him in the face and ties him to a pole. Pretty wild. He also, in that same type of scene, A's just bow and arrowing Ezra and Caleb up, dude. They're just like, whoa, don't get hit with the arrows. It's crazy. Just absolute crazy shit is happening in these episodes. Hannah tries to, before she gets arrested, she tries to come clean to the cops about A, and she's going to like show them all the A texts and be like, look, someone's out to get us. A hacks into her phone and all the girls' phones, deletes all of the A evidence. During the court case, that Leslie girl that I mentioned, who was like friends with Mona, she's on the stand. She's throwing Hannah under the bus. It's crazy, making Hannah seem super guilty and just like lying about stuff too, which is interesting. Oh, actually, let's talk about this for a moment. There's a moment in one of these episodes that made me audibly gasp. So there's this whole thing. This requires a bit of setup. So Allison's lawyer for this court case has a great strategy. She's talking to the jury and she's like, whoever killed Mona threw her around with great force, as we see in the footage. We also know from the autopsy that the person who killed Mona killed her with an aggressive blow with the right arm. Now, Allison, will you take this grapefruit and throw it at me? And everybody's like, what the fuck is a goddamn grapefruit got to do with this? This is a court of law, lady. Get your shit together. And basically, Allison's lawyer goes on to explain that when Allison was like 2 years old, she broke her arm and it never healed properly, which means her entire life, she has not had much strength in her right arm. She can't even throw this 1 pound grapefruit. How is she supposed to throw Mona around and do a crushing blow with her right arm when she couldn't even play sports growing up because of her right arm? So that happens. I'm like, Jesus, this is an incredible lawyer. I also just love a courtroom drama. I'm a sucker for it. And this was getting good. Then the other lawyer, you know, the one trying to convict Allison, he walks up and he's like, Allison, you're saying that your arm, your injury, has kept you from playing sports growing up. And Allison's like, yeah, it did. And then the lawyer's like, well, then how in the world did you win this award from summer camp where you were a master archer? Wouldn't you have to use that right arm to shoot 4 different targets with a bow and arrow? And to beat all of the other people at this summer camp? That must mean you're a pretty good athlete, Allison. Seems like you're able to use your right arm pretty well. And everybody in the courtroom's like, oh shit, that's crazy. Allison is lying again about this arm thing. She probably did some murders. Guilty. So that's all fun and games, right? But the moment that made me gasp is there's a moment where Allison's sitting by herself in the hallway of the courtroom. This is before the verdict. So it's after everything that's happened. The jury is deliberating. And she's waiting there, and she's so nervous because she's about to find out if she's going to get life in prison or if she's going to be innocent. And Allison's lawyer walks out and sees her, and she's like, dang, that's crazy that they were able to find that award that you won doing archery so quick. I only gave them like 30 minutes. And Allison goes, yeah. And you know what's really funny is I didn't even win that award. I forced the other competitor to throw the competition and let me win it so that I could win the trophy. I did not actually earn that trophy. And that's the moment that made me gasp, because that's the moment that I realized without a doubt. I like to consider myself someone who really loves television and film. Allison is the best written character I've ever seen in TV. Her entire character was wrapped up in that one moment, that one line. Allison De Laurentiis has spent her entire life manipulating the people around her so that she could have whatever she wants. And now, the only thing that was going to save her from serving life in prison was if she just lost that archery competition that she wouldn't have even been able to compete in because of her arm. But 11-year-old Allison manipulated the people around her so that they all threw the competition and let her win the trophy. Her biggest downfall, the thing that essentially got her locked up in prison for life, is the thing that she probably saw as her greatest strength. It got her everything she could have ever wanted her entire life, and that ended up being her downfall. This is what peak television looks like, people. Bask in it. And if anybody at home, anybody watching this is like, Pretty Little Liars is a stupid show, it sucks, I will burn you at the stake. All right, anyway. Chase, who is A? I have good news and I have bad news. Let's start with the bad news. The bad news is that Andrew is so clearly guilty, it's insane. Like, the show has started playing haunting music whenever he shows up on screen. Like, at one point, we straight up just see him watching the girls through a window. At one point, he even slips up and tells Arya, where he's like, you know, kind of glad Mona's dead because she always took all the credit on the team, the decathlon team, the smart people competition thing, where he's essentially just like, yeah, everybody's talking about how great Mona is, how smart Mona was. But you know what? There was other people on that team. I was on that team. I'm just as smart. And it just slips a little bit. It was like his mask slipped. And even Arya was kind of taken aback. And then later on, he like confronts Arya and he's like, hey, I know how that came across. I'm so sorry. I think I just have some unresolved feelings about it. I don't want you to see me that way. But I see him that way. So that's why that is bad news, right? Because the show has very heavily made Andrew super suspicious right before the finale, which could mean one of two things. It could mean one, it's because he's A, or it could be two, he's the final red herring before we get the big reveal. Either way, it makes it not great for me. But then Chase, what's the good news? The good news is I do feel like we caught on to him just barely before they made it super obvious. Like, it was already pretty obvious. But, you know, I don't think everyone would have been like, what about Andrew? So basically what I'm saying, the good news is if Andrew's A, I think I'm going to call it a win. Hey, but I'll let you guys decide. But that does mean that I am officially keeping Andrew locked in for who I think A is. Because, look, on one hand, he's A, and I managed to figure it out towards the end of the season. Or B, he's just a red herring, and then the big reveal in the finale is going to be someone I didn't suspect, in which case I didn't really deserve it because I cannot think of a single person on this board that could be A other than him. I mean, I will be absolutely furious if Ezra's the big reveal, because this is the one Pretty Little Liars video where I was like, you know what? It's not going to be Ezra. Like, usually I am just like hounding that man because I hate him. But this time I was like, whatever. The dream's over. It's not going to be him. So I will be upset if Ezra's the big reveal. I'll also be, God forbid it's Caleb. I love Caleb. I don't want him to be the bad guy. You know, also, while I was watching these 3 episodes, I started to think, like, none of this would ever have happened to me. Like, when I was in high school or even now, I'm too lazy. Like, if A started attacking me and started texting me, I'd just be like, hey, here's my address. Pull up at the house and we'll fight. There would be no game of cat and mouse. A would show up to try and kill me. I would beat the shit out of A. I don't think that you guys realize that I'm like that. A could be Dwayne The Rock Johnson and I would still handle business. All right, I'm just being weird because I'm super excited. I'm so pumped to watch the finale. I'm so excited. I'm just too excited, dude. I'm fucking shaking. Am I forgetting anything? Ooh, this is important. This is very important as we go into the finale because I want to take a shot at this in case it's revealed in the next episode. At one point, the girls get a message that Mona left behind for them, and it's like a coded message. And this is the message. Chandelier's rituals, sister launched layer A. Okay, hold on. Chandelier's rituals, next line. Sister launched layer, next line. A ruler's list chained. The girls have no idea what this means. I don't know what this means, but I thought it would be fun to try to solve this like code puzzle thing. So like at first I took the first letter of each word and that made CRSLLARLC. Chrysalarlic obviously doesn't make any sense. I even tried to take like the first 2 letters of each word, which I got the word Chris out of, but then I was like, we don't know anybody named Chris. So then I'm like, okay, maybe it's a riddle, right? What is a chandelier's ritual? Well, a chandelier is like a light fixture and it hangs there and it lights up, right? So that would be its ritual. Sister launched layer. When I hear the word layer, I immediately think A's layer. That's what it's always called in the show, A's layer. Who do we know that like launched the A layer? That'd be Mona, right? So maybe it's saying Mona's sister. I don't think Mona has a sister, but maybe that's the big twist. Then there's a ruler's list chained. I don't really even know where to begin with that one. Like a ruler, like a king or queen, their list chained. Maybe it's like a king or queen's list would be maybe it's like their list of close advisors or something. And then that their close advisors chained in jail. Our 4 main characters and Allison are in jail. So maybe this is someone who is like a trusted advisor or a king or queen. Jesus. I'm not a puzzle guy. Like, the only thing I can really think of is like, this has to do with, we haven't gotten the resolution to the Bethany Young thing, right? So it's like, I was like looking through and I was like, maybe the letters need to be mixed matched. I was looking to see, can I make the word Bethany? No, you can't. Or even her last name, Young. It doesn't line up to Young. And then I don't think it's a coincidence that in the line, a ruler's list chained, that sentence starts with a capital A, right? A. I really don't know. I wish that I was better at this because, I mean, how cool would that be for you guys to watch that? Where I'm just like, it's right before the finale and I've got a riddle or a whatever code and I just nail it right before the finale. You guys at home would probably be like, oh my God, he's cooking right now. But instead, I'm not doing a good job. Hey, that's not how this YouTube channel goes, okay? This channel is all about watching a guy who's not the brightest stumble through teen drama mysteries. Chandelier's Ritual. Sister A. I don't know, guys. I'm locking in Andrew for who I think A is. I'm so pumped to watch the season 5 finale. So let's just go jump right into that right now.
Welcome. Willkommen. Bienvenidos.
Do you know where she is?
Don't you? I know who took them. It's A.
The spring finale of Pretty Little Liars, Tuesday, 8/7 Central, ABC Family.
I don't really know what to say, guys. Oh, fuck. Okay, first of all, let's get this out of the way. This is probably the greatest episode of Pretty Little Liars ever. I just watched episode 25, the finale, season 5. The girls, 4 main girls, are headed to prison in an armored truck. Cut that. A shows up, fucks up the guards, tear gases the girls, knocks them out with knockout gas. I swear the show is just a fucking Batman origin story. A kidnaps the girls, puts them in a giant dollhouse where Mona is still alive. She's alive and well. Well, I don't know if she's well. She's alive and dressed as Allison. We quickly find out that Mona has been being held prisoner here in this dollhouse and being forced by A to pretend to be Allison. She has a blonde wig. She's wearing the outfit. And then essentially A has been like torturing her to do whatever A says. The girls, obviously, because they're awesome and smart and cool, they plan this big escape attempt because they outsmarted A. Doesn't really work. They're still trapped. And then the episode just ends on a cliffhanger. Oh, God. So like this episode, oh, Jesus Christ. This episode was like a part 1 of a 2-part episode. So part 1 was the season 5 finale. Part 2 is the season 6 premiere. So we don't get a reveal, like we don't get a resolution. And I know I seem frustrated, but I cannot stress to you how cool this episode really is. Like at one point, Spencer finds out A's name, Charles. And then she makes it into this like vault, like he has a vault, and she watches a home movie. And it's 2 little boys and a little girl, and then Allison's mom. And they're on this old farm. We find out that this is the old Campbell's farm. Campbell. Andrew's last name is Campbell. At one point, we see Andrew like hacking into some computer stuff like A. So it's like, it feels like they're obviously being like, oh, and Andrew's A. But we don't know that for sure. And then meanwhile, the cops and Caleb and Toby and Ezra, they're all working together to try to figure out where the girls went. They're like, oh God, A's taking the girls. And then the cops didn't believe him at first, but then they managed to convince them because Caleb is sick. And he's on the computer and he shows, oh, it's so cool. And in this home movie where Allison's mom is with these like 2 little boys and this little girl, she's like, all right, boys, give your little sister a kiss. And it's like, why the fuck is she here with these children? Who is Charles? Is Andrew Charles? Why would he change his first name to Andrew, but then keep the same last name if it's an alias? It's like, I need to change my name so that way I can start harassing these girls I go to high school with. My name is Charles Campbell. What should I change my name to? Andrew Campbell. I don't want to disrespect my father by getting rid of my last name. So it's like, or, you know, there's two little boys in this home movie footage. So it's like, okay, one of them Andrew, one of them Charles, they're brothers. And then there's a sister. Is the sister Bethany Young? Why is Allison's mom there? Why is Allison's mom got 3 kids that are not hers when she has a different family where she has 2 kids that are hers? I guess they're hers. And if she did, like, are these 3 kids in this home movie, like, literally her children? How the fuck do you have 3 goddamn kids and your husband doesn't find out about that? That's what? What's 9 times 3? That's 27 months of being pregnant that your husband just wasn't paying attention to you. Like, damn, she's been getting big lately. Also, while the girls are trapped in the dollhouse with Charles is making them recreate a prom that happened at Rosewood 7 years ago, which, and this can't be a coincidence, we find out is the same prom where Melissa and Ian went together. And at this prom, they managed to convince Charles or whoever to come out of the shadows, and he's in a mask and a suit and everything. They outsmart him, and they get him to step out and accept his prom king crown. He's going to be the prom king to Mona is dressed as Allison, and Charles punishes them if they don't call her Allison and her be Allison. Allison's the prom queen. He's the prom king. And so they managed to get him to come out. They have this whole trap. You know, they're super cool. They're badass. They managed to try to escape at this point. And it just really becomes blatant that this guy, Charles or whoever, is just very mentally ill and obsessed with Allison. And that's what this is all about. He wants Allison for himself. And maybe, I guess my idea is like Andrew, if Andrew is Charles' brother, maybe Andrew is the super smart one doing all of this A stuff to try to help his brother who's just obsessed with Allison to the point of crime. And then it's like, I don't even know if Andrew is A or if this is a red herring, because yeah, his last name is the same as the farm, the Campbell family farm, but who is this Charles guy? Or I'm assuming because we saw home footage of 2 brothers and a sister that like they could be brothers, but I don't know that for certain. This could just be a red herring. This Charles guy could be someone totally different. So my brain is swimming. I'm obsessed with Pretty Little Liars. I thought I was about to get the big reveal. I mean, I cannot stress to you guys how awesome this episode was. When it ended, I was like, wait, no, it can't. The episode just started. It's only been 5 minutes. No, it was a full hour-long episode. It just was so incredible, and I was so caught up in the mystery, and then it was just over, which brings me to kind of the big elephant in the room here, which is this is the end of this video. And usually I like to space out the Pretty Little Liars videos at least several months in between them. But the way that this season ends, I just can't do that. I want to know what happens next. And I know that you guys who have been waiting for the next Pretty Little Liars video for, I don't know how many months it's been, 4 or 5 months. I don't feel like it's fair to you guys because it's like, I obviously didn't know that the finale was going to be like one of a 2-part episode thing. Otherwise, I would have redone the whole thing and like tried to do the 2 seasons together. I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is I don't want you guys to be disappointed. I cannot wait to jump into the next episode to figure out what happens. So I already have some commitments. So my next couple of videos in the next couple of weeks will not be Can I Solve Pretty Little Liars season 6. But in a month, in a month or less, around a month, my next major Can I Solve video will be Can I Solve Pretty Little Liars season 6, which I know you have to wait a month. That sucks. But if you think about it like this, when season 5 finale originally aired, they had to wait like 4 months before the next episode. So that's way less time. I'm like negotiating with you guys like you're terrorists. I'm like, hey. But no, the next big Can I Solve, you don't have to wait that long is what I'm saying. I usually like to wait. I'm putting out the next one as soon as humanly possible. Yeah, I do. I want to take a step back from being super crazy and hyped about it and just be like, you know, this has been the 5th video in this series. I'm so grateful for all of you that have stuck around for each video and has joined me on this journey. There's still 2 more seasons. Season 6 will be out very soon. And And then we only have one more Pretty Little Liars season together. And I can't thank you guys enough for being on this journey with me. If you want more Pretty Little Liars stuff from me while you're waiting, if you go over to my Patreon, it's $2 a month. I've been doing the Pretty Little Liars book club. I've been reading the first Pretty Little Liars book, and I've been making videos chapter by chapter where I just talk about the chapter and my thoughts and how it compares to the show. I'm up to like 23 chapters over there. So there's plenty of videos to watch while we wait for Pretty Little Liars Season 6 video. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. All right, dope.